Yes, good afternoon, all of you. Myself, Suraj Suryavanshi, and I have been taking the ethics in vision since last 3 years. So this is an open seminar with regard to paper 4, ethics, integrity, and aptitude. How many of you, by the way, wrote this year's mains? Wrote the mains? Okay, please raise the hand. Okay, nothing apologetic about it, I guess. How is it? How is the ethics paper per se? It was not good for me. You wrote last year also? It was your first attempt. So what the problem you faced? Why it was not good? Basic concepts, okay. What about you? Yes? Who else have wrote the paper? Very specific, like John's theory of social justice. Okay, fine. Second ARC. So what you are going to do in ethics paper if you are not going to know about the ARC, its recommendation on ethics? That's not a very technical, I say. Because there is a syllabus, one chapter, aptitude and foundational values of civil services. Okay. Yes, how about you?
Sir, I left like a lot of questions,
could not complete the paper. Okay. Anyone who has appeared last year also and this year also? Anyone who has appeared last year and this year also? And what the perceptible change was there in the paper? Have you gone through the last year's paper, ethics paper? Have you, all of you have gone through the last year's paper or you haven't seen it? You should. Okay, this like syllabus and the previous year's question paper are Bible and Gita. Okay, if I may call it. Okay, because unless and until you see the syllabus and previous year's question paper, okay, the analysis is not complete. What we are going to analyze here is in the absolute terms. But you have to always know the analysis on the relative terms also, what has been the change since last year. Okay, the pattern has changed or not, nature of questions has, whether it has gone more tougher or easier, it's become more objective, subjective, okay, so on and so forth. So that's what we are going to do with respect to discussion of the paper as well as the in general approach and how to prepare for the paper 4, okay. So now some of the general observation, like if you see this year's paper, yes, somebody has already said that it was more specific, okay, as compared to last year. Yes, it was very specific in terms of few of the questions, such as John Rawls' concept of social justice, or maybe for that matter, the 7 sins, social sins, as given by the Gandhi, okay. So these were some of the technical ARC recommendations, but I would say that as you prepare for this paper, this is a very fundamental, that is ABC of ethics. So in fact, your paper should start with the Nolan Committee's recommendation and ARC recommendation, because that's the foundation for the bureaucratic ethics. So cannot be considered as too technical, which is an offbeat question. It's a part of a syllabus only. Rest of the things like Kautilya's view have also been asked, but the thing is, the statement was very generic in nature, and we know that Kautilya has dealt with the corruption a lot in his Arthashastra. So again, that's not a very difficult question. If you see the other from tip ho raha hai kya? Yes, they were straight away picked up from the different topics in the syllabus. If you follow the questions, okay, from first to end, so you'll get that from each syllabus they have asked question. So even if you could able to relate, say for example, first was ethics and human interface, you have a straightforward question that ethics contribution to the social and human well-being. That is about the essence of ethics, why we follow the ethics. Second is with respect to this impartiality, non-partisan. Second chapter is with respect to attitude. So there are 2 questions on the attitude. One question was regarding undesirable attitude as a part of your civil services, and one case study related with that. Or for that matter, there was another question with regard to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and attitudinal change. So second chapter, the point of the syllabus, and you get the direct question on it. The third is with respect to aptitude and foundational values. Aptitude and foundational values, I'm not talking about 1, 2, 3 question number here. I'm talking about the syllabus and topic. First syllabus is ethics and human interface. So what is the significance of ethics? That's the first question. Second syllabus is attitude and their attitude, change of attitude, social influence and persuasion. You have 2 questions straightforward. Third chapter was regarding aptitude and foundational values. You have what are the different public service code by the second ARC. The fourth was regarding the emotional intelligence. We have a question with respect to, yes? Anger, okay, anger and how will you manage the anger. Then we have the topic on thinker where you can get the John Rawls or for that matter, the Gandhi, okay, and these are very, very mainstream thinkers, okay. In ethics, it's like, if you talk about social justice, in contemporary times, social justice theory starts with the John Rawls. So, although you must not have heard about it, but there was a hint also that concept of social justice. So you could have written it without any, and Gandhi obviously is a mainstream thinker, nothing much to be emphasized on Gandhi because UPSC question is incomplete without the Gandhi. Next is with regard to these were the first 5 core chapters. Okay, after that there was a probity in governance, so you have a direct question on corruption and the Kautilya's view about the corruption. And rest of the things, there are certain things with regard to law and ethics and etc. Rest of the things we are going to discuss. And the case studies. Now if you see the case studies, last year there were more tricky case studies, I would say, in a sense that it was very difficult to find out the substance within the case studies and write more. But this year, there were pretty common themes, like common themes with regard to personal interest versus larger organizational and public interest, what you are going to do, issues with regard to conflict management, issues with respect to different dilemmas, okay. So when we'll discuss, I'll discuss the pattern also, but I would say that case studies of this year were pretty mainstream case study, and something which, if you have attended the different classes we have already done, we could able to predict 2 case studies directly come from the Vision IS lectures that we have taken. And in fact, almost, like, this is not boasting about the our own self, but almost all the theory questions have been discussed some other way in the class. You can find in the different videos also, okay. So with this general introduction, let's start with question paper, and we'll start with the theory part first, and then we'll proceed to the case studies. At the outset, do you have any question to ask in general, so that I can discuss that, and then we can proceed for the discussing the questions per se. Yes, any general questions if you have? No? Shall we proceed? Okay, let's start with the first, the explain how the ethics contribute for the social well-being. Now, see, there are certain very general questions. If you see that in 2014, you got a question, first question, what do you understand by happiness? Okay, here also how ethics contribute for the social and human well-being. Now, these are general questions, and you have all the open space to write. But I would say that if you be more specific, then try doing that. Okay, in fact, the general perception that is coming from this year's GS paper, it is more generic compared to last year papers, except for the fact that McBride Commission and all those things. Okay, leaving that part, but they were quite generic in nature. So whenever the question is general, okay, certainly you can write anything, but you can fetch more marks if you keep your answer more close to the question. Now, in this case, if you see how ethics contribute for the social and human well-being, it means that the inherent issue that they are going to discuss in this is, what is the importance of ethics? What is the essence of ethics? Okay, in fact, that's the first question. Why we should so bothered about the ethics and morality? What is the necessity of following it? What happens when you don't follow it? Okay, why there is so much of emphasis that ethics has to be followed? Okay, so answer to that, why ethics should be followed, is because there is a utility of ethics, there are certain advantages of ethics, and that is what the question is all about. That is the importance of ethics, significance of ethics, or essence of ethics, the ethics contribution for the social and human well-being. Now here, first you can cursorily define what is ethics. Okay, ethics are the principles of good and bad. Okay, they guide our behavior, etc., etc. So those defining things you can introduce in 1 or 2 line maximum, and then you can come to what is its contribution for the social and human well-being. Now, I would say that if you can divide it into 2 parts, that will be a more accurate one, because they talk about both social and the human well-being. Okay. So you can talk in terms of the social well-being, how it is important, and human well-being, how it is important, or you can do it collectively also at individual level and at societal level. So yes, can you tell me what are the things that can contribute for the human well-being? That is at individual level, and then we can certainly relate to it at the societal level, or in fact societal level and then human level. Yes. What are the things why we follow the ethics? Why we follow the ethics? What can be the answer? This is not just a monologue. Okay, this is going to be a democratic discussion, so that we can bring some new points. Yes. Mental health. Okay, fine. In what sense mental health? Can you elaborate upon that? Okay. Lot of conflict, yes. There is always an ethical dilemma which one to follow, and in that dilemma, if you have certain value system, that value system will guide us in a particular direction. So we can be at peace with our own self. Okay, peace of mind. Peace of mind, because there will be not a chaotic situation in your mind. When the values are clear, you can move ahead with those values. Okay, that is a peace of mind at individual level. Yes, certainly. Peace of mind, but you need to elaborate a little bit on that. How the peace of mind is there at individual level, because it helps in resolving the different conflicts. Okay, if conflicts emerge or the dilemmas emerge, so out of those conflicts and dilemmas, a particular set of value will guide coming out of those conflicts and dilemmas. There is a word called as cognitive dissonance. What is cognitive dissonance? There is a mental depression, okay, or insecurity in the minds because emerging out of the conflicts. When there is a conflict of two different values, and we tend to follow one value or the other, there is going to be a sort of anxiety within us that I follow something and I believe in something else. So there is a dissonance. Dissonance is conflict. What you preach that you don't follow, or what you follow that is not in their your own conscience dictate you to do. So if there is a gap in between your conscience and your what you follow, there is a conflict, and ethics will help in bringing the peace of mind. Yes, what else? Moral turpitude, okay. In fact, the question is about that, why we should follow the morality. Yes, moral turpitude is, yes. Our conducts cannot be codified, okay, fine. I'll take that point in different way, yes. What else? At individual level, why do you follow? Okay, see, there is a concept called as eudaimonism. Okay, although you need not have to write this concept, eudaimonism. Anybody knows about this word, eudaimonism? What is it? Aristotle concept, eudaimonism. Yes, yes, you. Yes, you are saying something. Somebody else were saying, what is eudaimonism? Okay, fine. So, in fact, there was a question, what contributes for happiness? Okay, when we do good things in life, it contributes our personal happiness also. It's not for the society's purpose per se. We feel content. We feel content at our own level that, okay, I have done something good in life, and since I have done something good in life, there is a sense of happiness. Okay, like say, for example, beggar is there, and if you help him out, you feel a sense of satisfaction. So, in fact, Aristotle has said that morality, okay, following the good values or good things in life is a source of happiness. Okay, and therefore it contributes peace of mind, it contributes for the happiness of our own self, making the life more disciplined, okay, facing different crises in a more constructive manner, etc., etc. So these are some of the points. You can elaborate a lot upon it. Okay, helping someone, facing the crisis that at individual level. In fact, here emotional intelligence and all those aspects also come in. So at individual level, it will be a more disciplined life. There will be a more peace of mind. There is a happiness. You able to face the crisis, etc., etc. So that is at an individual level. Now, primarily when we talk about ethics, it has a lot of significance when we think about the society, at the societal level. Yes, at society, what are the things? This helps in bringing the order in the society. It's bringing in order and equilibrium in the society. Now, the society is based upon certain ethical principles. So these ethical principles are the set of principles in order to maintain the equilibrium or order in the society. What else you can think about at the societal level? It promotes the, again, here peace of mind hai, there is a peace, harmony in the society. Peace and harmony in society. It helps in bringing the tolerant society. Tolerant society. It helps in extending the principle of social justice. In fact, you can give certain example also. I'm just talking about what should be the framework, like social justice, empathy, compassion. These are the things which can relate, and you can say that those people who are not well off, disadvantaged, weaker section of the society. So ethical principles might help this unprivileged, below poverty line, disadvantaged people, okay, to ameliorate their condition and situation. So these are the guidelines. Apart from that, now when the question is about society, it means that society administration is also an external to you. So it's also a larger part of society, okay. The state as an institution is also one of the institution of society. Although state we say more in a political terms, but here liberally we can interpret that how it is again helpful from the society, that the different organization and different agents, formal organization in the society can behave in a more ethical manner. Now, so the point is at individual level and at societal level you should write about it. Now the most important aspect here is that whenever you are writing any answers in ethics papers, you have to give the examples also, okay. So please try and give the examples for each one of them. If there is a crisis, you can create a hypothetical situation and say that this was a crisis situation and ethics has helped me in managing. This is the anger has been controlled because of this, etc. Order in the society, you think of there are people who practice unethical things. So ethics help in judging those behavior, those people who are so-called deviants in the society. Ethics help in maintaining, or in fact, there are. See, the thing is, there is one question that what is the difference in between law and ethics? Although it is being said that ethics is more voluntary in nature, and there is no punitive action. That is what we are going to discuss in case of difference in between the law and ethics. But that's not purely correct statement that there is no punitive action. There is a punitive action, but in a different way. What is a different way? There is a conscience when it is at individual level, but when it comes to the society, you face the social boycott, okay, or rejection from the society. Say, for example, if you are not practicing something what the society believes in, then the society will start boycotting you. So there are social punishment, okay. So there are different sorts of punishments which are there, but they are more informal in nature, okay. Rather than being a formal nature, which is by the law, it is more informal in nature. So this is, I think, a pretty straightforward question. I don't think so ki there is much difficulty in writing it. In case of society, you could have given many examples. See, in this question, there is no substance in a theory-wise, but how you can make your answer more innovative manner is with the examples. Like, say, for example, if somebody is writing, if there is a refugees, and refugees are facing the problem, and refugee crisis is going on, ethics will help in providing the humanitarian angle so that we can consider the refugees as first as a human beings on the humanitarian ground. So this is something that with examples you have made your answer more innovative and interesting. Likewise, other examples also can be given that how you can help the people in the society. So that's the thing with regard to, in case of tolerance also you can give so many examples. Sometimes in ethics it's also important, there is another way of writing it. Rather than writing in a pro manner, in a sense that positive connotation, you can write in a negative. Like if ethics is not there, then it will lead into conflicts on the basis of caste, communal violence, intolerance, moral policing, etc., etc. So the tolerance will help in having a social cohesion. It enforces the social capital, it develops the cultural and religious tolerance, and therefore it contributes for the peace and harmony. So give some negative aspect, absence of it, what it is going to happen, and that is why we need to follow the ethical principles. And then you say that these ethical principles become primarily the principles for the any administration in the state. Okay, that constitution and the law is reflection of ethical principles. So conclude in saying, so that because we don't want to go into the domain of state as of now, but you can conclude that state, constitution, and these formal institutions are based upon the ethical principles which help in the larger welfare of the people. Okay, is it fine? So that's the first question. Pretty straightforward, I would say. Second, why should the impartiality and non-partisan be considered as a foundational values in public services, especially in the present day socio-political context? Illustrate your answers with examples. Why should the impartiality and non-partisan should be considered as foundational values of public services? In fact, this is again coming from the second chapter, aptitude and foundational values of civil services karke ek chapter hai. Okay, so in that foundational values, you have foundational values, two lists primarily. One is list given by the Nolan Committee. Okay, Nolan Committee has given seven set of values, and then ARC has given some set of values that we are going to see in the some other question number 3B. But out of that value, one important value is impartiality and non-partisanship. Now here what you can do is first start the question by defining what is impartiality and non-partisanship. Now what is an impartiality? Impartiality is civil servant is expected to take the decision based upon the merit, okay, based upon the impartial criteria or the merit, and he is not expected to take the decision based upon any parochial criteria such as caste, religion, place, gender, sex, etc. Okay, so these are the parochial criteria. So define impartiality, that civil servant must take the decisions or implement the policies solely based upon the merit or objectivity, and he should not do so by bringing the parochial and the narrow considerations such as caste affiliation, caste, religion, gender, sex, etc., etc. So that is about the impartiality. Now the question is that this is a foundational value, why it is so important in the present socio-political context. So how you can articulate your answer here, what is the socio-political context in contemporary time, and how being an impartial becomes all the more important. Yes, how do you relate to this aspect, that is impartiality on one side and its importance with respect to socio-political aspect, and then they are also saying that give the examples. Become all the more important, okay. That's a general statement, or what else? Any Yes, yes. Okay, good. Yes, very good. What else? Political interference, okay, good. What else? Yes, what else?
Where the independent candidate in parliament decide how to vote according to their will, but not according to the political affiliation.
Why he should not vote according to his political affiliation? If he comes in power based upon a political party's tag.
Depend upon the elective as well as debate between elective and representative.
Yes, but the thing is, there is a certain merit when they have to go as per the political lines. The merit is, sometimes people have not voted the person per se, they have voted actually the agenda of political party. That is why we have a whip. Okay. Now the thing is, there is a debate, okay, between the whip. Where is the individual freedom important and when is the party ideology is important? In between the two, which one is more important? Whether the individual freedom is more important or whip is more important. Whip, you understand, all of you? Okay. That is stricter guidelines are given that they should vote on the particular lines. Now this can be a matter of debate as an individual freedom versus these things. That's another thing. But in fact, it is sometimes ethical because you came with the political ideology, but political ideology should not restrict the fundamental aspect, that is the freedom of an individual, because at times he may think of based upon his constituency, he also is a representative of his constituency. So any policy which is not in sync or going in conflict with the interest of his constituency, he also represents that. So in such cases, the whip does not give him a scope to contradict the policy. So there are many reforms that have been suggested, such as like only in case of no confidence motion and when there is a issue with respect to collective majority or collective accountability is involved. In such cases, the whip should be given. That's a different. Here, more it is in terms of civil service point of view, because here foundational values in public services, here public services per se, like from the bureaucratic side. Okay? Yes, what else? How do you relate to the present time relevance in the socio-political context? See, the thing is, you have to talk about, in fact, you have to create a situation that how absence of impartiality and what is the context because of absence of impartiality. So you try and write all those problems, and against these problems you can say that this says that impartiality is all the more important and it should be followed. So what are the things you have to write here is all negative points because of absence of impartiality. So start from the corruption. There is a rampant corruption happening in each and every department because there is a lack of impartiality. That's again a very generic word. Then you talk about the favoritism. Favoritism, that is, in fact, lack of impartiality leads into the favoritism. That is, you take the decision based upon your individual biasness. So in favoritism, again, you can write favoritism. If you favor the family, then it leads to the nepotism. If you don't follow the impartiality, and see, there are different types of biasness. Now, biasness can be in terms of family, so it leads into the nepotism. Then biasness to the particular business class or business family or this thing, it will lead into crony capitalism. Okay. Then biasness in terms of a specific gender or the caste also. Then with respect to some political party, that is called politicization of bureaucracy or lack of political neutrality. So different sorts of biasness. Write this word absence of in today's time, we see there is a rampant corruption, there is a growing crony capitalism, there is nepotism, there is favoritism, etc., etc. Now, the whole result of this, you can say that leading into the inefficient administration, inefficient and ineffective administration. Then talk about what is the impact of inefficient and ineffective administration on the people at large. So in fact, it contradicts the public service as a value, it contradicts the people welfare, it becomes a hurdle in the people welfare. Therefore, it is all the more important that we have to follow the impartiality and non-partisanship. That he has to take the decision not based upon his family, business, caste, political affiliation, but he should go by the merit and objectivity. Now the question says give certain examples. Give certain examples, then talk about while procurement or allocating the contract. So if you allocate the contract or procurement based upon your political affiliation, based upon your caste lines, how it is going to negatively impact the decision making. Talk about the crony capitalism. Okay, 2G spectrum can be quoted as one of the things where the impartial criteria, rather than following the criteria impartiality, we see that there is a quid pro quo. In fact, this is a very important word, quid pro quo. What is this quid pro quo? In return, okay, in return benefits. Okay, that is a reciprocity, in other words. So you give certain contract, and in return you seek certain. There is something called as rent-seeking behavior करके एक word आता है. Rent-seeking behavior, revolving door entry. So some of the other benefits you are trying to look in the longer run, and therefore you dilute the impartiality criteria. So discuss this way, and do not just stop here. Talk about how it affects the administration, that is ineffective and efficiency, how it affects the credibility of governance in the eyes of public, because this leads into the longer term trust deficit. There is a gap, ever increasing gap between the people and the administration is increasing because there is a lack of impartiality. In fact, there is a vicious cycle. This breeds more and more corruption, and people will tend to go with this kind of approaches through which they can get benefited. So discuss this point and then say that Therefore, the following the impartiality and non-partisanship becomes important. One of the point of impartiality and non-partisanship is political neutrality. Political neutrality is subset of impartiality. Okay, when you become impartial politically, it is called political neutrality. How do you define the political neutrality? Political neutrality is civil servant should take the decision or implement the policies without favor or disfavor to any particular political party, or without bringing his political ideology into consideration, because that becomes a partisan way of doing it. Then you can also, you could have written that there is an unholy nexus in between politico, administrative and corporate class because of lack of impartiality. So this is a big triad nexus, politico, administrative and corporate nexus. This nexus is bringing a lot of inefficiency, and that's the root of the problem of the corruption, and therefore this is important. I hope, yes? Yes, certainly. You can say that that is Nolan committee has re-emphasized this point. In conclusion, you can write ARC also has recommended that political neutrality is an important ethical consideration. Yes, any other you want to say?
Top echelons of NGO are run by the family, wife's family.
Okay, yes, you can. In examples, you can go ahead with that. Okay, that is sometimes when contract and the procurement is done, procurement and contract is done, by favoring and disfavoring family members, etc. Okay, let's move on to the next.
So in the introduction, should we define impartiality and non-partisanship?
Oh, come on. Impartiality and non-partisanship are the same way of putting the things in two different ways. Non-partisan means, see, the partisan is, you are doing partisan politics. You are being biased. Non-partisan is non-biased. Or, say in positive way, you are impartial. Do not be biased, it is a non-partiality, and be a more objective, that is a impartiality. Okay. Next is, what do you understand by the term governance, good governance and ethical governance? Now this was a little bit challenging in a sense that when you have to define between the good governance and the ethical governance. Okay. Governance, good governance, ethical governance. Yes, how do you define the governance? So when we talk about the government is an institutional and governance is more of a process. Okay, so simple way of defining it is, see, what we do as a part of a governance, we make the policies and we implement the policies. So keep it as simple as possible that governance is about different processes and mechanisms which involves in policy formulation and policy implementation. That is the task of governing. Task of governing is about the processes and mechanisms which involves in the policy making and the policy implementation. That is about the governance. For that matter, then it can be any organization, not per se it's a state organization, it can be a corporate, they also form the policies and they run the policies, whatever the policies, maybe profit oriented and etc. So governance, there are processes, it involves the processes and mechanisms for the policy formulation and policy implementation. Then there are many things can be written there itself, but since we have been asked separately what is good governance and what is ethical governance, so do not spill all your beans in governance itself so that nothing is left for you in writing the good governance. Then again repetition of same points. Okay, like transparency, accountability, वहाँ पे लिखे फिर transparency, फिर transparency, फिर transparency. So it's sort of a monotonous. Now, the good governance. The good governance, yes, now this was a little bit challenging in a sense that if you see the, are these two terms contradictory? Are the two terms contradictory? No, absolutely not. In fact, what is ethical is good and what is good is ethical. So it is more of a subjective interpretation, how narrowly and liberally you interpret the things. If you narrowly interpret the thing, see the thing is, these two are superimposition on one each other. Okay, if in an ideal sense, if you interpret liberally, everything that is ethical can be a good, everything which is good is a ethical. So ideally speaking, this is it. But since they have asked good governance and ethical governance, it means that somewhere they are thinking that there is some sort of subtle differences in present context when we use the term in a more specific manner rather than in a more liberal and generic manner. Okay, when we use liberal and generic manner, they are one and the same. But when you use in a more specific manner, then there are many more things that we can discuss. Yes, what is your idea? What do you think that there must be a difference? Or whatever, be liberal in answering this, that whatever the idea is, that what can be the good and what can be the ethical, how they can be different, apart from the similarity between the two. Okay, fine. And then what is ethical? All-round welfare. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I'll take that argument only when you will tell us what is a good and what is ethical. Because that is what China and what the India is. Why you have tagged China as a good and why India as ethical? Just because the word sounds more ethical and better, you tagged India, or is there any reason for it? Yes, you have a point. That's what I'm saying. No, let him speak. Yes, please. Okay, fine. So they bring the bulldozer and then they clear the land acquisition and etc. Okay. So freedom is not there, but the state is going ahead with it. Very good point. In India, does not happen in land acquisition. Yes, please. Above the flow. So please be more specific. What is with the flow and above the flow? Yes, let her speak. Okay, I'll come to that point. Is the other way around? Which must be a codified one and which must not be a codified one? Okay, I got your point. I'll take that point. A little bit more modification, Okay, very good point. And what else is there in good governance apart from the sensitivity for the weaker section and marginalized section? Equitative governance is then equitative means what? Equity, when you bring the equity, it means that you are bringing the sensitivity, social justice, empathy, compassion. And ethical? So what is that moral attitude? That's what I'm asking. You have simply used the synonymous word. Ethical governance is a moral governance. How moral? What makes it moral? Okay, good. Very good point. Yes, last 1 or 2 answers only. Yes, please. Yes. Yes, very good. Okay, so he is crossing the line, so red light. Okay, fine. Very good. You have a good line of argument. Yes, last. Okay.
But in ethical government, they are basically, it is imposed, but
more democratic manner.
persuading the people.
Okay, good. Last.
Can be more efficient ways wherein I am doing a delivery of the services according to whatever codes, custom procedure has been prescribed.
Okay.
Then ethical governance from the part of the
Civil service. Yes.
which will be more beyond, like for example,
Public-centric, citizen-centric, situation-centric, circumstances-specific. Good. Last. I got your point. Last. Public administration. Please go ahead. Yes, that's right. Okay, fine. Got that point. So this is what the line of argument we have to take, because we want to narrowly interpret so that we can give some certain distinct point for each one of them. Okay, so this is something. See this, since they have put it into the comma, into inverted comma, it means that there is a some specific meaning that we are taking in present times when it comes to the good governance. What specific time that we, the specific terms that we include is something which is being told to us by the World Bank, IMF, and the United Nations. So it is more of a Western model. Okay, they have come up with certain sets of rules, regulations, and principles, and they're saying that this is about the good governance. It includes transparency, it includes accountability, it includes rule of law, it includes so on and so forth. All those structural and procedural mechanisms through which you can. So they are saying that this is one size fit all model, that you follow these things and then you apply these things, that's a good governance. Now the point is, when you follow a very strict model in a cultural context, like say for example in case of third world countries, all those points may not be valid. Okay, at times you need a certain sort of flexibility. So here they are talking more in terms of the means, okay, and this means becomes end in itself in the contemporary times, because there is a more thrust on transparency, accountability, transparency, accountability. It's more of a mechanical in orientation without giving due consideration for the cultural context. Okay, cultural context, that is about the problems of people, the situation, so what is required is not just the procedures and rules and regulations, but we need to be a more empathetic, compassionate, social justice, public-oriented governance. Okay, so that's the thing we have to write. So somewhere you have to write here, good governance is something which tries to bring the governance in a good manner. See, something you can define in a negative way what is not a good governance. Not a good governance is lack of transparency, lack of accountability, no rule of law, okay, inefficiency and effectivity. At least 3-4 points you can write. And in this context, good governance is about having a transparency, having a strong accountability, having a rule of law, having effectivity and efficiency, etc. Okay, there are points such as equity and public participation also, but I would say that you reserve this point because you have to bring something new here. So you say that these are the procedures of doing it, but then when ethical governance is people-centric governance. It is a citizen-centric governance. It is application of the governance in a specific cultural context by taking a due consideration about different problems faced by public at large. So it is more sensitive. It is based upon equity. It is based upon social justice. It based upon empathy and compassion. It is more public service oriented. So this provides a sort of flexibility in the governance. Flexibility is in governance. With terms of what the problems are faced by the public, you make certain changes. You are not rigid with some 5 points, 8 points, 10 points, etc. So ethical governance in that regard is that a people-centric and this problem. But again, I repeat this in saying, whatever point we have discussed in ethical, there are points of good governance as well. Okay, good governance, when you liberally interpret, it encompasses everything. When you include ethical governance, it is not just about social justice, it's also about bringing transparency and accountability, because transparency and accountability will reduce the corruption, and when the corruption is reduced, there is a more productive use of resources, and therefore the problems of the society and social welfare and other things will be addressed. Just a second.
So we can quote question number 11 in
Question number 11 kya tha? Yes, that is Weber model. Okay, yes, in fact that's the line of argument we are going to take when we'll discuss one of the question. That is, there is one question on the Weberian model of democracy. In fact, something related with that. In fact, you can quote here Gandhi. Gandhi has talked about Ram Raj. Okay, that is ethical governance. Okay, Ram Rajya, where there is a prosperity of the public. In fact, you could have quoted here Kautilya also. In the happiness of the subject lies the happiness of king. In the welfare of the subject lies the welfare of king. So ethical is something, if people are not happy, no matter whatever the policy are, okay, even if they are stricter and if it is not making the people happy and comfortable, so then the policy may not be called as more ethical in orientation. Have you understood? So these are the points, huh? Yes, please. Jallikattu can be put in context in two ways. Okay, one is like based upon the cultural, traditional practices, respect for the culture. But I would say that just because few things are happening since long period of time cannot be justified. Just because something is happening for the long time. If it would have been some other cultural thing without causing any violence. Like say for example in case of Jallikuttu, there is another spectrum where we talk about the animal rights. Okay? If it would not have been animal rights, any benign form of cultural thing, then it means that you should also give respect to those aspects. That's a more democratic governance rather than the authoritative and rule-based and procedure-based governance. I hope the point is clear.
But what government is doing by passing ordinance is good governance or ethical government?
It cannot be both also. Ordinance can be a good reason if there is a emergency like situation and you really require some sort of a law for the public welfare. Parliament cannot be conveyed. Maybe the ordinance is good. But if your intention is to bypass the parliament and then come up with certain laws in order to impose because you are failing to build the consensus on parliament, then it's a bad. Are you understanding? So it can be in any ways. I hope the point is clear. So that's the point that you have to make it more discrete. Okay, let's go to the next. That is discuss the Mahatma Gandhi's concept of 7 sins. In fact, we at Vision, we have done this all the 2 things in the class, Mahatma Gandhi as well as John Rawls. If somebody from class can tell what are these 7 sins? Okay. First I'll write and then we'll discuss about most important thing, that if I don't know, how do I tackle the question? That's the most important question. Okay. So we will discuss that first, but let's first assume that we should study hard and write what we know, okay, accurately. That is 7 sins. Yes, there, I'll just write politics without principles is a sin. Okay, let me write, then I'll write all these things. Politics without this knowledge, without character. Then wealth without work. Wealth without work. Then commerce without morality. Then yes, that is a pleasure without conscience. Knowledge without character. Wealth without work, commerce without morality, pleasure without conscience, then science without religion. हाँ, humanity means religion मतलब वो इतना वो नहीं था stricter sense में, ठीक है? Religion as a source of ethics which brings the humanity, ये था वो. Okay, science without humanity. Religion. रिलीजन नहीं है ये, वर्शिप लिखो, ठीक है, वर्शिप रिलीजन, वर्शिप. इतना स्ट्रिक्ट तभी होता है जब एग्जाम खत्म हो जाता है, ठीक है, अदरवाइज okay, you have to manage. See, the thing is, now these are the 7 sins. In fact, one thing which is very direct, it can be 7, it can be 100, it can be 1 also. Any x without y, and this y is ethics, that is we call as a 7 sins. Okay, x is, that is different spheres of life, whatever we do in life, whether it is a politics, whether it is a education, whether it is a wealth at individual level, whether it is a commerce, that is business, whether it is a pleasure, whether it is a science, whether it is a religion. So he has found there are different things that we do in life. Okay, in fact, all the human being activities can be fall, okay, with one or the other way into these 7 categories. And whenever we do, we should always have at the back of our mind the ethical principles. That's the idea here. This word have been used in a different way so as to give the more specific meaning attached to this. But these are all nothing but principles of ethics and morality. Like politics without principles. Is politics without ethics? In fact, this question appeared in 2013. Like, question was there, politics without ethics. Okay, politics and it is generally being said that politics and ethics do not go hand in hand. What do you think about the statement, and can they go hand in hand? Give your opinion. So, can they go hand in hand? Yes, they can go hand in hand, and in fact, if politics and ethics do not run hand in hand, we have all this problem: misuse of power, corruption, inefficiency, etc., etc. So politics should go hand in hand with ethics, and good governance and ethical governance is an aspect of or manifestation of when you run politics with ethics. Knowledge without character, again, there was a essay last year, okay, that knowledge, and in fact, essay was there with respect to education without moral values, or moral education के ऊपर जो essay था. So knowledge without character means knowledge without moral and ethical principles. So in fact, there was an essay also, and there was again in 2015 there was a question that principles or the ethics without knowledge is a weak and timid, and knowledge without ethics is a dangerous and dreadful. Okay, so knowledge without ethics is dangerous and dreadful means if you have a knowledge, then you may use knowledge for the parochial purpose or a narrow purpose. You may misuse your knowledge, so that causes destruction. Likewise, wealth without work, it means that if you are earning the wealth with a illegitimate manner, okay, so that's also not correct. Commerce without morality, like profiteering. There is a difference between profit and profiteering. What is profiteering? As anybody knows, what is profiteering? Nobody knows. Unreasoned way में profit earn करना. See, the corporate है तो profit earn करेगा. We can understand that. The very philosophy of corporate is to earn the profit. But there is a reasonable way of, a legal way of taking a profit. Okay, something what the Karl Marx surplus value will be of more, and if you are earning more, like say for example, you are selling something and the cost is 10 rupees, and the same thing because of crisis you are selling it at 100 rupees. So that is certainly a profiteering, that there is no justification for the cost. So that is something profiteering, that is commerce without morality, or commerce, they say food adulteration. Food adulteration, and you are selling the food products. So that is commerce without morality. Please give an example. So why I'm telling example is you have to write the examples, like wealth without work. You do not work. Yes, please. Yes, certainly very good example, I would say. The dark hour of the history, what the Dr. Tharoor says these days. Okay, so commerce without morality. Very good. Okay. Uttarakhand disaster, where you want to put it? That's a too far-stretch analogy in a sense that development and capitalist way of development, and because of there is environmental disbalance and then flood. Okay, that way you are saying. Okay, fine. Certainly. Pleasure without conscience. Okay, that doing certain activities which is at individual level, maybe it is more of a hedonism. Okay, hedonism, utilitarianism, you understand? That is more consumeristic, materialism, hedonism, utilitarianism. It is more of materialistic pleasure without conscience. Okay. Adultery pleasure without conscience can be. Okay. Anything without consent is you can include, but without consent you should not say it unethical. That will be again go into the another domain of ethics, whether the consent is a basis of ethics. Yes, please. Oh, what do you want me to say? That you want to make me marks out of me? Like he is asking. That's a very relevant question, by the way. Okay, I'll take this opportunity in talking something more. He is saying that apple is profiteering or not. Not an apple that we eat. Okay, I hope everybody now got it. The Apple mobile phone or the company profiteering. What do you think about this? They are providing the value addition. So, but in profiteering, we have said that whether the cost is in proportion with the quality that they are providing, that becomes the profiteering. Which complex? Inferiority complex. That's the problem of the people who use them. If you don't think that Apple is not required, so you will not feel an inferiority complex. Because you are getting influenced by the society's perception. Okay, that point is there, yes. Huh. Amount of the input investment they make. So you say that it is profiteering. No, your explanation says so. You are saying that labor is very cheap and the sell cost is very high. If you feel, then why you should feel sorry about it? Say it that it is profiteering. Reliance is there or not? अब जाने तो बोल दो, अब घर का ही बोल दो. कहाँ एप्पल मतलब वहाँ तक चले जाते. KG basin, etc. See, the thing is, anything. See, there is a freedom for them to put any kind of cost. Okay, it is more of a subjective analysis. Profiteering में ये होता है कि illegitimate way करना. जैसे KG basin का example दिया है, उसमें आपने fraud. There is a certain fraud, element of fraud, that you are saying that we will drill the oil, but you are consciously not drilling the oil, okay, in order to increase the profit. So that may be the component. In case of Apple, if you are putting it, it's up to you whether to purchase it or not purchase it. Okay, so that's maybe but it's more about the subjectivity. Scam. Yes, scam. All scams can be without ethics. Okay, all scam. That goes without saying. Okay, there is a different debate. Like there was like people say that this Apple founder, Steve Jobs, was a great person. Okay, I came across. Okay, it's a long time. I think 3 years back, I came across one article. Okay, which I'm sharing with you, that he was a good businessman. He was a good entrepreneur, but he was not a great person of generation. That was the article headline. Okay, do not consider that I am criticizing, etc. I'm just giving the viewpoint. The article says that when the penicillin was invented for the first time, okay, penicillin, I hope everybody understands, that's the antibiotic when invented. So when the penicillin was invented, the person who has invented? Alexander Fleming. Okay, he has not gone for the patenting it. He has put it into the domain of public so that it can be freely available for the larger human people, okay, particularly those who are suffering and downtrodden and etc. without any cost. Now, the article says that definition of greatness extend beyond your sphere in order to go beyond your sphere and which touch the larger mass of society. Now, you can consider that Apple, how much mass they can touch. Okay, it serves barely a 1% or 5%. And here they say that if the penicillin IPR would have been put up, he would have been a great entrepreneur and businessman and so on and so forth. So when we talk about the greatness, it comes with some sacrifice, not at individual level sacrifice, but something which you are doing for the society. We say that, like, this become a very general thing. Sachin Tendulkar is a great person. Now he is a great cricketer. Okay. Again, I am not criticizing, please. I am also a fan of Tendulkar, but I am saying about the terms. Okay. When we say about the greatness has to come from how they have contributed for uplifting the larger society per se, and not just the individual excellence. He is individually excelling in his field, and maybe he is one of the best cricketers that the planet has ever produced. You can say that, but when you use the word great, again, it is again very subjective. Let me come to the next, that is worship without sacrifice. Now, people might say that killing of animals, that's not the sacrifice they are talking about. It is more of a devotion that they are talking about. Okay, it's not a sacrifice. Science without humanity or science without religion also been term in use. Like science give you a technology, but in which directions you are going to use the technology, that's a part of ethics. Like say, for example, Manhattan or nuclear technology. You may use nuclear technology for producing nuclear bombs, weapons of mass destruction, or you may use for the peaceful use of nuclear energy. So technology gives you a scope, the ethics give you the direction. Okay, and without the ethics, there may be a misuse of science, okay, in a wrong direction. Or a gun is there, you can use the gun against the innocent people, or gun can be used for the self-defense. So it's the principles or ethics which is going to drive you. So that's the aspect, broader aspect here. In fact, one example here could have been given with respect to ultrasonography. Ultrasonography is a technology which can help in detecting the genital abnormalities, but you may detect the sex determination and the feticide, female feticide can happen. So that's science without this thing. So the question about 7 Cs does not mean that you just put it 1, 2, 3, 4 style thing and then okay, paper matlab phad phod ke aaya, etc., etc. That's not the thing. Here, absolutely the UPSC was not at all expecting 7 things point to point you should have been written. Okay, it is more about, even if you written 3-4 things, or you know the theme, there is something without ethics, and elaborately discussing and analyzing in the present context, you will fetch more marks. Okay, so something, even if you don't know, do not worry about it, because we know that what the Gandhi has to say is something about the ethics only. Okay, and the clear cut something says, somebody has wrote, like when the paper was over, I was having a conversation with him. I don't know how the UPSC is going to grant the marks. He has wrote about 3 bandar of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, that bura mat suno, bura mat dekho. Bura sunna is a sin, and bura bolo, and bura this thing. Okay, but yeah, in some sort that's also the thing, something related with ethics, but this is more a specific way. Okay, also relate politics somewhere with the civil service administration. You can write in conclusion that as a civil servant he should be more rational, more ethical for the larger progress of society. So Gandhi's 7 sins can be a guidelines for him to emerge as a good and ethical civil servant that way. Yes. Yes, if you know the theme, that is what I have said, X without ethics. Minimum, at least you should know this. What I was saying, that you are not able to recollect the 7 things. But if the line of argument is completely wrong, you are writing something else, then it's very difficult. Okay, so that's the thing. 7 is not important, number is not important, it's more about the analysis and the theme. In fact, there is single theme which is running, that something without ethics, how we can go about it. No, array, this is a general word. It means morality, it means ethics, it means everything. He has just used the word in order to create a rhyme and sort of things. That's what I said, that any second component is same. Conscience, morality, character, principles, humanity, all good things. Okay, something that we have to take into account. So that's more of a generic word. Okay. Yes. Now let's move on to the next important things. That is John Rawls' concept of social justice. Yes. Is there any? Huh? We have left with any question? Is it fine? Okay. John Rawls' concept of social justice. Now in this case, let's do a reverse way, because you are more curious about what if we don't know. Okay, so let's go that way first. What if we don't know? And then we'll come to what the John Rawls has to say, and whether we can reach to the what John Rawls has to say. Now, let's say you don't know, but you know this word social justice, okay, and something in Indian context. So what you can write on social justice is, yes, what are the themes of social justice? Okay, let's use the word positive discrimination. Okay, positive discrimination. In fact, more when we talk about social justice, we say about, yes, social justice is about social inequalities that prevailing in the society, to cover this different policies, okay, which try to plug the social inequalities or reduce or eliminate the social inequalities. So social inequalities. Now social inequalities, when we say, it is with respect to the status, and more about it is with respect to the rich and poor. Now to reduce this poor, to bring them at par with the rich, or to bring the equality, okay, we talk about the positive discrimination. We use the word, yes, somebody has used it, that is affirmative action. Positive discrimination, or sometimes word is used, that is a protective discrimination. Protective discrimination. Or any policies which, in fact, socio-economic justice. Okay, all the parts of socio-economic justice. Yes, what you are saying? Redistribution. Okay, that is the redistribution principle. Okay, let me write redistribution or distributive justice जिसको बोला जाता है, redistribution or distributive justice. What is distributive justice? That you apply certain principle wherein resources can be distributed so that the gap in between rich and poor can be reduced. That is a distributive justice. Redistributive is you apply the tax to the rich and then redistribute it. Here it is subsidy maybe, and here it is a progressive taxation. So progressive taxation, and here there is a subsidy, so there is a redistribution, and this is how you can bring the social justice. And then if you can put the John Rawls, okay, almost 70% of the answer is right. Okay. Now just we have to add some flavor to it. Okay. So this much if you are writing, then also you are, so that is what you can do. That some of the policies, this is based upon the, please put, John Rawls has never said it because John Rawls is a Western scholar, you can just have to put that these are the themes which are emerging out of the idea of the John Rawls. Okay. John Rawls has talked about social justice, and on the basis of his ideas, this becomes all the more relevant in Indian context. India is going for the subsidy, entitlement-based approach, empowerment approach. So there are different approaches there also. Bottom-up approach. Do you know this word? Bottom-up approach. Then we have entitlement-based. Okay, there's something that we talk about. Yes, what are the entitlement-based schemes that the government of India? MG Narega, then Food Security Act. So these are the entitlement-based approach through which we are trying to bring the social justice. And you can say that John Rawls is all the more relevant in the globalization context because globalization, or you can, rather than globalization in Indian context, post-LPG era, because post-LPG era has developed more inequalities. Gender-based budgeting, because in that you are bringing a gender component also. Okay? Yes, so we were talking about this John Rawls and their theories. So in this context, that liberalization, privatization, globalization has accentuated the gap. You can relate with the Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient is, that is inequality coefficient. You can say that some of the reports are coming where the 70% or 90% of the assets are in the hands of 10% of people, and yes, many reports are there. Okay, so there is a glaring inequality in the society, and therefore positive discrimination is important. Okay, I feel that you should get 45% of mark. Okay, not less than that if you put this much. Now let's put John Rawls and what is his idea. See, the John Rawls is a starting point of contemporary time when we talk about the social justice. Okay, just let me give you in a very 2 minutes brief context. There exists a capitalism. Okay, where because the person like Adam Smith and etc., they have talked about non-intervention of the state. Okay, that state should not intervene into the economic activities. Okay, that is what we call laissez-faire state or the police state, something that Adam Smith has talked about. Since the state, now there is something called socialism. Socialism, on the other hand, says that there should not be property, okay, and there should be a community ownership of property, etc., and there should be equality. So these are the two spectrums of the coin, okay, two extreme spectrums of the coin. One is the socialism, another is capitalism in economic sphere. Here there is a redistribution of income, more egalitarian society, equality, etc. This is rich and poor, etc., etc., okay. Now in this context, John Rawls is trying to bring some middle point between the two. That's why he becomes a more, all the more relevant. And we'll see that how his idea is more relevant in the contemporary time as well. Now he was actually, to start with, a liberal scholar. Okay, he was not a socialist scholar, he was a liberal. Capitalism is a economic side of the liberalism. Okay, so he was a liberal scholar, but it is being called a social liberal scholar. Now what was his idea? He has gone for a very different altogether a procedure. Without calling himself as I am a liberal scholar or social liberal, etc., etc., he has adopted a very different approach, and that approach is called, that is a well of ignorance. Okay, so well of ignorance. Now, what is this in well of ignorance? That if the individual, any person, without any kind of ideology and having no understanding of his own, that whether he is a rich or whether he is a poor, okay, now what are the criteria that he can think about justice? Okay, what are the criterias he can think about justice when he is in a position of will of ignorance? This is he called as a original position. His original position is he is in the well of ignorance. And what is this ignorance about? Ignorance is about he does not know that whether what is his position in the society, whether it is a rich or poor. Now think of if he knew his position, then the justice will not be you can say that objective one, impartial one. He will create a society or a system where if he is a rich, which will benefit the rich, maybe he will create something like this. Adam Smith has said invisible hand, or something with respect to trickle down, etc. If he is a poor, he will more talk about this socialism, communism, and equality. So this position is he does not know, okay, who he is in the system, and in this position he is trying to talk about the principles of justice. Now he has come up with the 3 principles that any rational, normal human mind can think about. First, he has said that everybody loves the liberty and the freedom. So he has given that liberty as a first consideration, that is liberty for all, or liberty of all, or the freedom of all. This was his first principle of justice. This is also important for all. It means that he is not saying that it is a privilege of a few. It's a privilege of everyone, and everybody should enjoy the liberty. So that's the first principle. Now, second and third principles, in fact, this establish the, I'm writing, although he is not writing this, that is, this establishes the political and civic freedom. Civic rights and political rights and civic rights, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of association, freedom of all those sort of things, political and civic things. Now, when it comes to the socio and economic, the second and third becomes more relevant. When it comes to socio and economic aspect. In socio-economic aspect, second point he has said that after everybody has an freedom, liberty of life, then second thing is equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity. Now this is again important. He is not using the term equality of outcome. Okay, there is a difference in between equality of outcome and equality of opportunity. Opportunity means everybody should get an equal opportunity. Inherent in it, it means that merit will be the consideration once the opportunity is provided. Like there should be an accessibility for all, and after an accessibility, then it should be a merit. Inherent in it. Okay, he is not using the word merit, he is simply saying equality of opportunity. The implication of this is that all the political position, constitutional position, administrative position can be, yes, can be taken by anyone who is a competent. Okay, everybody is given. But now third is very important one. The third is with respect to the economic aspect and social aspect per se. When he says that equality of opportunity is there, inherently we also know that all the section of the society are not positioned ideally that everybody has a equality of opportunity. So he has put it is in the third, what is called as the difference principle. I just write, I'll explain what is difference principle. Difference principle as a third point. Now what is the difference principle? See, generally we say that there should be an equality in the society. General jab bhi hum bolte, there should be equality. Now in case of economic context, it means that even if there is a rich and if there is a consider people as unequals, because that will only give us an opportunity to work for the weaker section of the society. So we should not consider everybody as equal. We should in fact do certain policies in the favor of unprivileged one or downtrodden one. That is called as difference principles. Let me say what is difference principle. That differences exist in the societies and inequalities are okay as long as if inequalities help us in identifying who are the weak and then making policies in favor of them. So it means that here he is trying to bring this positive discrimination, affirmative action, protective discrimination, social justice, redistribution of income, etc., etc. Because here he is trying to bring that some people maybe historically, okay, they do not enjoy the equality of opportunity for their historic reasons, because of caste reason. Now, having written this point, you should say that, now come back to the question and say, question says that what is the relevance of social justice in the Indian context. You can say that in Indian context, see, the thing is, why he is considered as a liberal scholar is because he is putting the liberty as a first. Equality of opportunity is also a liberal way, but then he is becoming a socialist here. Socialist here because he is saying that state cannot completely ignorant. It cannot be a laissez-faire, what he has been talked by Adam Smith. So state should positively interfere so as to help the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. Okay, those who are at the bottom of the pyramid, state should make a positive interference, and this positive intervention is called social justice. Now you bring this social justice context in Indian context, you can say that India is a heterogeneous society, and India is divided on the basis of caste and etc., and there are other inequalities, redistribution of income and etc. So rich and poor division, the caste discrimination, and there are a variety of discrimination that exist. In this context, the John Rawls social justice becomes all the more relevant, and it becomes more principle with respect to providing the positive discrimination, etc. And then you relate the historic discrimination mandate to the caste on the basis of which we provide the reservation. Then you can say that rich and poor gap is there. So in this context, we try to go for the progressive taxation and subsidy. Then third, you can bring that Amartya Sen here, because Amartya Sen is also social liberal. In fact, Amartya Sen theory is basically analysis of John Rawls theory and then improvement over it. That Amartya Sen says that we should go for the empowerment approach rather than just focusing upon the subsidies. Okay, not just the resource distribution, because there was an essay in last year, I think, there was like doling out is not helpful. Okay, empowerment is required. Okay, that is helping hand is more important than the doling out. Doling out is making them dependent. So you can write upon the social justice, and this is how you can say that John Rawls is all the more important. You can also bring somewhere Ambedkar also, that John Rawls and Ambedkar, who are talking about the social justice in Indian context, in the same parlance, Dr. Ambedkar has talked about the social justice and its significance. Okay, so that is how you have to write. Yes, please. Yes, you can write, but the thing is, you should not make it too technical. Okay, the larger part of answer should not be. When you are writing the example, what the government has done for the weaker section, just write, for example, some protective laws, for example, some subsidies, for example, some of the schemes for the weaker and welfare section. Okay, that is how you have to write. Okay, is that fine? So even if you don't know social justice, you are almost reaching to the same point without just giving an due consideration for this methodology. Okay. Is it fine? Okay, so we can move. Yes, somebody has a doubt here? No. Okay, let's move on to the next question. That is, discuss the public service code as recommended by the second ARC. Now, public service code as recommended by second ARC. First of all, you should know that the code are of two types. Yes, obviously you should know what is ARC second, but you should not keep on writing on ARC. It was formed, Virappa Moily was heading it, 14 reports, I downloaded PDF copies, never read. Okay, that's not the thing here. It's talking about the code of public service. Now the code of public service, there are two types of code. I'm not talking about ARC per se, I'm just first talking about what are the codes. Yes, what are the two types of codes? Code of ethics and code of conduct. Code of ethics and code of conduct. But you must know that before ARC, code of conduct already exists. Okay, we have already a written code of conduct. There is a written code of conduct. Can you give certain examples like central service rules, Okay, 1964. This is a set of code of conduct. We don't have code of ethics. Let me explain what is code of conduct. See, these are the general principles. These are general principles or guidelines. This word is important, general. General principles or guidelines which help in maintaining the ethical behavior of employee. Both of them are going to maintain the ethical behavior of an employee, but in a different way. This is a general principle or the guideline which help in maintaining the ethical behavior of employee. These are more specific rules and regulation. Specific rules and regulations which help in maintaining the ethical behavior of employee. These are more specific. So this word is important. One is generic in nature and another one is specific. So this is in fact in the form of do's and don'ts. कि आप क्या कर सकते हो और क्या नहीं कर सकते. Do's and don'ts. Do's and don'ts like these days, in fact, acceptance of gift के ऊपर revision आया है. What is the revision? Can you accept the gift as a bureaucrat? And how no और yes नहीं है इसका आंसर. हाँ no ही है वो, but टेक्निकल फॉर्म में बताया गया है 5,000 रुपीज, 10,000 रुपीज, 20,000 रुपीज, 20,000 फ्रॉम डायरेक्टली, इनडायरेक्टली. स्पेसिफिक गाइडलाइंस है, तो वो स्पेसिफिक गाइडलाइंस है कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट. बट हियर दे सिंपली से दैट इंटीग्रिटी एंड ऑनेस्टी शुड बी upholded. So when I say integrity and honesty, it's a general guideline, but this becomes a specific guidelines. We already have code of conduct, although there are a lot many issues with respect to code of conduct as well, and ARC has suggested that code of conduct requires a revision. They should be made more precise. It should be made more concise. Now, code of ethics are not yet written in India, although there have been number of attempts which have been made, but still it is not written in any book. In this context, ARC is saying that we are suggesting certain code of conducts and you should follow this code of conduct that as a civil servant so as to inculcate more probity in governance. So in this context, that some of the code of ethics or the codes have been suggested, these codes are generally we recognize as code of ethics. In fact, you should also know that there is a Nolan committee, which is a very famous one. Nolan committee has also given certain seven set of code of ethics principles. Here there is, why there is a reference? Because almost all the things which are there in the Nolan committee, you will see in the ARC recommendation, all the 7. But in addition to 7, there are many more. Okay, so 7 तो आपको पता होगा कौन-कौन से हैं. See, the thing is, again, here your wording should not be accurate. It's a simple that what are the codes that are required. If you open the this lexicon book, you will find 7 and 10 sets of things. Okay, so what are the 7 sets of things? Yes, impartiality, transparency, honesty, integrity, objectivity, leadership, etc. So these are all also the set of guidelines for the ARC. In addition to that, there are many. Okay, if you want to write some of the things in general way, I'm just saying you just write honesty and integrity. I'll explain that. Honesty and integrity as a value, then impartiality and non-partisanship, something we have discussed in the question number 2. Impartiality and non-partisanship, then transparency, accountability, dedication to public service, transparency, accountability, impartiality, honesty, integrity, dedication to public service, empathy, compassion, tolerance, courage of commitment, empathy, compassion, tolerance, courage of commitment, spirit of service, that is dedication to service. Okay, even if you're writing this much, okay, it's more than enough because that is what the ARC. Now, what is a significant difference in between Nolan and ARC? ARC में Nolan वाली सभी values है, plus in addition to that, we have these values like empathy, compassion, tolerance, dedication to public service, etc. Because in Indian specific context, there is a criticism on the bureaucracy, that bureaucratic apathy is there, that there is a status quoism, there is a bureaucratic insensitivity and indifference towards the weaker section of the society. So in this context, to correct this bureaucratic apathy and insensitivity, they have also suggested that empathy, compassion, tolerance, courage of commitment, public service, this also should be the features. Have you understood? So 5 features, new features, plus some of the common features, that makes us the AR's recommendation. Okay, and then in conclusion, you should write that obviously this help the civil servants in maintaining the ethical behavior, and this has become all the more important in the present context because again you can say that there is a rampant corruption in the administration, etc., and all the problems of bureaucracy you can write. There is a red tape, there is a lack of empathy and compassion, that is bureaucratic attitude or bureaucratic apathy, there is inefficiency in administration, there is a lack of transparency. In this context, ARC guidelines become handy in order to inculcate and cultivate the values of morality and ethics into the civil servant. So that is how you have to write. Again, I would say that it was a very, very straightforward question because the second chapter is completely like aptitude and foundational value. The whole chapter is about values only. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next. That is, corruption causes the misuse of the government treasury and administrative inefficiency and obstruction in the path of national development. Discuss Kautilya's view. Now see, the thing is, this has to be written in 2 ways, or 2 parts, I would say that. Little bit historic aspects about what the Kautilya has to say in the first paragraph, and in the second paragraph you have to like reduce that Kautilya's viewpoint, or for rather this particular statement into the contemporary context. So it does not mean that you just talk about the this Kautilya or what he otherwise known as the Chanakya's view, okay, during the ancient times, and you discuss him and just you leave the question because you have discussed the Kautilya's view. Okay, that's not, you are not going to face the marks because somewhere you have to write the contemporary aspect also. So Kautilya's view on corruption, in fact, you can start saying that Kautilya in his famous book called Arthashastra, a treatise on the government. So he has elaborately discussed about the corruption. So somewhere you drop the word Arthashastra mein, he has talked about it. Then if you know any sort of Kautilya's view, because it is customary to know, because something when we talk about the corruption, one reference that we always make is about the Kautilya. Kautilya in Arthashastra has referred to the corruption. So if you know anything about the corruption, you should write about it. Including, there are certain famous quotations and famous viewpoints that he has explained in the corruption. Okay, one of the viewpoint that he has explained that how the corruption is so intrinsic to the human being. Okay, he has said that when you put the test of honey, okay, that is honey on the tip of tongue, and then you test that, you will not like stop without testing it. If you put honey on the tip of your tongue and ask that person, do not test it. It is something like that. If the money will be there in the hands of any person and tell him that do not be corrupt. So he was saying the association of the money and the corruption is something which is related with the honey and the testing the honey. So he was saying that it is going to be inevitable that people have a greed and corruption is common. In fact, he was other quotations which I remember is like if fish is moving in a water, okay, now you cannot judge when the fish is drinking the water. It is like that. Okay, when the civil servants are functioning, it's very difficult to judge when they are sucking and putting into the Switzerland bank and etc. Okay, so it's that difficult. In fact, he has said that it is very easy to tell the every movement of a bird in the sky, but it is very difficult to tell when the corruption is happening and when the misappropriation of the fund is happening. So he was trying to say that corruption is very complex, and if you take it for granted that people are going to be ethical and nothing is going to happen, then you are befooling yourself or you are living in a fool's paradise. So he was saying that this itself means that corruption is going to be inevitable, and in this context, you should be all the more alert. You cannot take it for granted. You have to be alert, and in this context, you have to bring a strong mechanism in order to curb the corruption. So talk something about Arthashastra, then say that how he has highlighted the significance of corruption, and then he has suggested. Now this was the second point, that corruption is inevitable according to him, and therefore it is in the intrinsic nature of human beings, and therefore this only means that we should be creating the robust mechanism in order to prevent the corruption from happening or eliminating. A third point he mentions about is that he has talked, there is one famous quotation, that is a ways of embezzlement are 40, okay, that he writes in the Arthashastra, that ... ways of embezzlement are 40. What is this embezzlement means? What is embezzlement? Yes, corruption in a simple way. It's a fraud, corruption. Okay. 40. In fact, he has discussed the 40 ways through which the corruption can happen. Okay. In the ancient time, he has said that what are the different ways of corruption. So he was talking about there are so many ways, in a simple way, that there are so many ways that misappropriation of the fund can happen, or the corruption can happen, fraud can happen. So it means that you should be more and more alert. So something which you have to talk, and in this context, he has suggested something. He has suggested like there should be a strong punishment, although we are not going into too much of history, but just he said that if the punishment is weak, then the corruption is going to continue. So strong punishment has to be there. Then second is, he has said that from top to bottom, everything involved in the decision making, everybody should be investigated separately, okay, so that there will be a deterrence. So there cannot be a responsibility of A person or B person, everybody who is involved in the corruption. So if say, for example, decision making at this level has gone wrong, then obviously everybody is involved. So that is how he has said that there has to be a holistic mechanism, so that everybody who is directly or indirectly involved in the corruption has to be interrogated separately. Interrogation separate, strong punishment. And third thing which he has talked about is that there has to be once the corruption is proven, then people should also given the right in order to claim the compensation because of the corruption which has hampered them in a negative manner. So compensatory justice, something that we say. So because of corruption, if people have lost some entitlements and face certain sort of hardship, so for that matter, there has to be certain thing. So he has suggested the ministry should be like there should be a plurality in the ministry. There should be a rotation. Rotation इसलिए होना चाहिए ताकि एक ही minister अपना मतलब contacts ना develop कर सके, so that there should be a rotation, etc. So something you should drop, and then in the second paragraph you explain this particular statement, particularly in the Indian context and contemporary time. You can say that how the corruption misuses in the government treasury. You can say that in contemporary time, the same points what have been highlighted by the Kautilya are relevant. Again, you can bring 2G spectrum, and there are so many scams. Misuse of government treasury, you can say that how the misuse of government treasury has happened. Then administrative efficiency, you see that because of corruption, how it has led into the administrative inefficiency, policy paralysis, and lot many things because of this, and obstruction in the path of national development. You say that what has been the loss to the public exchequer, how the public are deprived of the rightful entitlements because of the corruption and inefficiency. If the corruption and inefficiency is happening, certainly it is going to affect the larger social justice or the larger public welfare. So you really talk about different scams, talk about different examples in the contemporary time, and you can say that the idea of Kautilya is still relevant. And in this context, you can say that we have to also bring the robust mechanism, that is strong accountability, institutional accountability, then autonomy of accountability institution, justice process has to be fast. In fact, you can take up this Corruption Act also. We can say that the act is weak, and in this context, there is a need to there are a lot of controversies with respect to the corruption bill that is being proposed. Okay, so those points you have to mention, that the strengthening of legal system, strengthening of institutional mechanisms of accountability, and the rest of the things. Okay. Again, you need not have to know specifically Kautilya. If you don't know, you just have to skip this quotation and say that Kautilya during his time has also focused upon this, and this becomes all the more relevant, right in sync with the question that has been asked. Okay. Next is, how could the social influence and the persuasion contribute for the success of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? Okay, I think this also we have did in the class. When we were talking about the attitude and persuasion and social influence and changing the attitude. So Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, what could social influence and persuasion? How do you write this question? Yes, what is the structure I am saying, not the answer per se. What is the structure of your answer in this? Two times, okay, fine. Then? Biggest impediment in success is? Yes, very good. In fact, somewhere you have to point out that point so that natural flow should be maintained. What is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and its objective you should talk about? That is making the India clean and defecation free, etc., etc. Okay, talk about what is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and its final objective is clean India or making it defecation free, etc. Then you can say that government has taken steps and launched a sort of a campaign, this Abhiyan, Clean India campaign or Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. And this campaign, the government is taking its efforts in order to, for example, like create more toilets and etc., etc. Again, very briefly, maximum in 2 lines. And then third, you should mention that in spite of the government is taking the efforts, there has not been a progress on the ground. Okay, not much has been changed on the ground because only the government intervention is not enough. What is required is change in attitude and the mindset. And you can say that the prevalent attitude, what is prevalent attitude is acting as a stumbling block or hurdle. There are certain prevalent attitude with respect to sanitation. These prevalent attitude are acting as a stumbling block for the success of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. In this context, we have to change the attitude in a more desirable direction for the success. So this is what is you have to write introduction, and then what are the attitudinal changes. Now, first, so the point is third and fourth paragraph is more important. This is just an objective and government intervention. This is maximum. It should consume 3 to 4 lines, not more than that. Here, because it's a problem of attitude, first discuss what are the attitude, prevalent attitude, and how they are the stumbling blocks for the success of Swachh Bharat. Yes, what are the prevalent attitude and how they are acting as a stumbling block or the hurdles for the implementation of Swachh Bharat or success of Swachh Bharat. Can you tell what is the prevalent attitude? Yes, very good. In fact, good of the individual lives and good of all जो है. Okay, उसमें है कि that personal cleanliness and the social cleanliness. There is a one attitude that is the personal benefit and the societal benefit. The people do not still understand. That prevalent attitude is if I clean my house clean, then it's a sort of contribution for it. But they do not realize if you are littering outside your house, so that's again going to affect you. That's personal efforts or efforts at individual level versus at societal level. That is one thing. Yes, what else? Yes, very good. What is discriminatory attitude?
The cleaning of all this is associated with certain castes.
Yes, very good. There are in fact 2 points here. Cleaning itself is considered as a very menial activity. Okay, there is no dignity of labor. When it comes to the cleaning, it is looked down upon. Okay, it is not considered as a very statusful activity. It's not like driving a Mercedes and etc. Okay, so a status that is cleaning, there is a lack of dignity of labor. Okay, and therefore the people from the privileged and upper strata thinks that cleanliness do not belong to them. Okay, so that's the component. That is cleaning and the dignity of labor. It is considered as an inferior activity. It is considered as a low status. It is considered as a menial job, etc. And therefore people do not believe. And in fact, it is not important also. Okay, it is a secondary. What is primary is you should earn the money, you should work hard, you should clear these things, that things, UPSC, वगैरह. वो भी important ऐसे नहीं है. But then if everything is goes, then we can think about the sanitation. The third thing is again, that is related with the caste, that it is particularly lower caste, particularly this what we call the Shudras and this untouchables. Okay, it's a job of a particular specific section of the society, and they should carry out this job. So that's a caste-based discrimination that is attached with the sanitation. And overall, the importance of sanitation is considered as secondary activity. The last one is, that is, it is a secondary activity. It is not a very considered as a very important activity. Okay, it does not makes a lot of difference if we ignore this particular issue. Okay, now you have to change on this particular lines, but here it's not about what attitudinal change you have to bring. That also you have to write, but how you have to bring. So there are two aspects here. What sort of attitudinal change that is required to be brought in so that the success of Swachh Bharat can be ensured, and how you are going to brought in the change. First is, you can quote various quotations here, like the secondary activity जो बताया था, तो उसके लिए है कि cleanliness is next only to the godliness, okay, or goodliness है क्या, godliness, okay, cleanliness is next only to godliness, कि पहले तो हम धर्म के बारे में बोलते हैं, तो it is immediately after that. So there is a lot of significance that cleanliness is next only to godliness. That is something one should not ignore. It's a very important activity. Caste-based discrimination, then you have to talk about that that sanitation and this thing is an activity of everyone. Okay, it has nothing to like specifically attach with the lower strata of the society. Then the sort of an attitude that you have to inculcate in order to make them understand that how it is important. So something which you can write, the importance of cleanliness has to be re-emphasized. Now here you can write just in 1 or 2 lines, there are different utility or there are what are the positive outcomes of being remain clean. Okay, so what points you can write? First of all, aesthetic purpose. Second, environment will be clean. Third, health consideration. Okay, so at least 3 things you can write. Okay, that is about aesthetic sense. Second is environment will be remain clean, and third is health. Fourth is also there, economic aspect is also there, which is related with the environment and the health. Because if sanitation will not be maintained, then there are issues like malnutrition and etc., which increases the burden on the health sector, health expenditure. There are 2 economic implications. One is it has a debilitating impact. If you are suffering from some particular disease, you will not contribute towards the society in a most effective manner. So that's also reduce the economic productivity of a person. Second is the cost which has to be burdened with respect to tackling the different diseases because of the cleanliness. So this is something which the importance which you have to write. Have you understood? Okay, the environmental consideration, the health consideration, the economic consideration, and the aesthetic consideration. Yes, certainly. I'll come to. In fact, how may I'll invoke those points. Now, how may kaise karna hai? Because see, this question is about changing the mindset and attitude. So there are certain points that you should always remember whenever we discuss about the attitudinal change. That how to bring the attitudinal change. Now, there are certain theories of attitudinal change. That is theory of persuasion. Okay, theory of operant conditioning. That is called as reward and punishment. Okay. So theory of persuasion, yes, theory of operant conditioning, I'll just write it as a reward and punishment theory. Okay, then yes, see, persuasion mein hi काफी सारे part hai. I'll explain that. Bringing the role models, okay, use of creating the awareness campaign. Yes, cognitive, that's also classical conditioning. Then use of the media and the social media or any other innovative platform, such as at the grassroots, you can have the Nukkad Natak and play cards and etc. So there are various innovative methods through which you can pass this particular message. Okay. So by and large, persuasion में भी 3 part है. Persuasion में एक statement होता है, who says what to whom. So who is a source, and what is a message that you are carrying, and who is a target or the audience. So depending upon that, you can think about source. In fact, ये इसमें आ जाएगा role model, bringing the celebrities into, so that if the celebrity is doing the cleanliness, so it pass on the message. Role model में यहाँ पे आप historic role model भी लिख सकते हो, जैसे बाबा आमटे and these kind of people have talked a lot about the cleanliness. So yes, Gandhi certainly. Okay, so you can bring the role models in contemporary time. You can bring some of the historic figures also, celebrities, etc. Children? Okay, children as a okay, collective efforts, you can say that. Reward and punishment may, yes, what you can write, reward and punishment. Hmm? Reward and punishment, incentivization and disincentivization. Like say, for example, if you are bringing the toilet, okay, construction of toilet, then some 1,000 rupees will be given to you. Okay, that is like incentivization. Disincentivization, if toilets are not there, you cannot fight the Panchayati Raj election. Okay, that's also disincentivization. This is a different way of going for it. This is called as nudge method. Huh? Public ridiculing, okay, the whistles and this different, there are innovative measures, I'll come to that, like different IS officers in a grassroots are going for, there are dabba group मतलब children का जब स्कूल छूट जाता है तो उनको एक सीटियाँ दी गई हैं, तो वो सीटी बजाएंगे जब भी ओपन डेफिकेशन कोई कर रहा है. So yes, that can be innovative approach. Yes, whistles are being blown if there is open defecation. So naming and shaming जिसको कहा जाता है. Yes, reward and punishment, you got it. Role models, awareness campaigns, media. Okay, through the media, there can be a more teaching this all environmental aspect, health-related aspect. Social media, innovation, nukkad natak, placards, competition at the school level with regard to this environment and cleanliness. This is how the message can be percolated to the people. So that is how you can say that. The attitude. So if you are writing only this, you will not fetch marks, because the question will also, you need to understand that what sort of attitudinal change you are trying to bring. If you are only write, okay, we will bring positive attitude, okay, that will not fail. What is a positive attitude? What is a negative attitude? What is a prevalent? What are you gonna change it? And how you are gonna do it. So that's the point here, okay. So I think that's enough for this particular aspect, for this. Next. Yes, yes. Yes, please. What you are wondering, huh? No, that is what the art. Here we are discussing so that what all ingredients can be written. Why it cannot be 150 words, 3 lines, 20-25 words of introduction. That's why I said that sometimes you should be very intelligent enough. Somebody has said how we should write, you should define social influence and persuasion. No, here it is not required to be defined. It is inconsequential. You are not going to fetch much marks. So when you have a fodder with you, which is very directly relevant to the question, then you should go with the flow of the question. If you have no introduction in this case, here it is more relevant to write the Swachh Bharat, okay, and then writing it that we are doing our bit, but it is still not, government is doing its bit, but it is still not taking off the ground because of the attitudinal problems. Okay? But yes, by and large, the answer is this. Okay, the last part, okay, how you are going to go ahead with it. Third part and the fourth part. Next is, yes, law and ethics. Social influence role model ka hai. Okay, social influence is about how we learn from the society and other role models and other players. If the celebrity is following, भाई कर रहा है तो सलमान खान कर रहा है तो जिम में भी डिस्कशन हो जाएगा कि चलो स्वच्छ भारत करना चाहिए. Okay, so that's a social influence. When great people do something, you follow it. That's the social influence. Say, for example, Pradhan Mantri is putting this. Yes, it should not be just a photo op, but it has to be on a sustained basis. That's important. If IS officer is coming in village and just putting a broom and then jhadu wo kar raha hai, so obviously it has not at all related with any symbol of party. So if he is doing, then certainly people will follow it. So that's the thing. I hope you got the social influence, who has asked it. Yes, now next, law and ethics are considered to be the two tools of controlling the human conduct so as to make it conducive for the civilized social existence. Discuss how they achieve this objective and give some examples to show that two different, how they are two different in their approach. In fact, I have discussed just a bit of it abhi pehle hi question mein kiya tha. Do you remember what I have discussed? Punitive, that's the point I was referring to, but there are two different approaches here. See, law and ethics are considered as two tools of controlling the human conduct so as to make it is conducive for this. So the whole aspect is human conduct is guided by two tools. Okay, and human conduct, which is a good conduct here, we are talking about more civilized one, more ethical, moral one, is because of two reasons. Okay, one is because of ethics, ethical behavior, and one is because of law. Okay, both are trying to maintain the good behavior, but in two different way. Okay, how in two different way? Here it is more through the socialization. A good values are being inculcated. See, the thing is, I'm doing good things in life because of two reasons. One is because I hold good values in life, therefore I believe that it is good to follow the good human conduct. Second is, I fear the law. If I do not follow the good conduct, then there will be a punishment. Are you understanding two things? One is trying to inculcate a good values in you so that you believe in following the good conduct. Another is trying to create a deterrence that if you do not follow, then you will be punished. So in both the ways, your good conduct is ensured. One is, in fact, this is out of fear. Okay, this is out of fear, and this is that you believe in. Okay, because of your voluntary thing that you think that it is a good thing to follow in life. So that is the question. Let's come to the question, and we can. Law and ethics are considered to be two tools of controlling the human conduct so as to make them conducive for the civilized social existence. Discuss how they achieve the objective. So you can write ethics, then define it. Ethics is the principles of good and bad. Ethics through the socialization, the good values are being inculcated. These values are being inculcated, that is called as virtue ethics. जो आपने किया होगा virtue ethics. Virtue is, that is inculcation of good values. So ethics help in cultivating the virtues in an individual, and virtue help in guiding the good human behavior. So that is how ethics manage it. Then you define the law. How to define the law? Law is a codification of good things, and it is backed by enforcement and punishment. Law is a codification of good behavior. Okay, what is a good behavior? And it is backed by enforcement. So law creates a deterrence, or it has a punitive backing, or the enforcement mechanism, so that if the things are not followed in life, then you will be punished for it. So one is through inculcating the virtues, help in maintaining the good behavior. Another through method of punishment, enforcement, and deterrence, help in maintaining the good behavior. This is how the two tools come handy in ensuring the good behavior. Which one is the best tool? Good tool? Yes, ethical, because this is a long term, okay? And this is something is not based upon the fear. This is something. But this is utopia to think that all people at all the time and everybody in all the spheres will be a virtuous. Therefore, we need to have a law. Okay. So, in fact, you should not say that they are contradiction of one another. They are complementary to one another. Okay, they are complementary to each other. In fact, last year also there was a question, 2-marker, law and ethics. Okay, so that's the question. Then come to the B part. Give the examples. Show how two are differ in their approaches. Now, this is a very important thing that here you can make a lot of innovations. First, you have to understand in the A part that is more of a theory, and in second part it is more about what sort of examples you can bring in. Yes, how you can go ahead with this part. Examples. Yes, anyone? It's not very difficult. Why you got stuck up? Okay, good, very good. Okay, you believe that dishonesty is not a good value, honesty is good value, therefore you buy the ticket. That is more of ethical. And second is because you will be punished, that is this. Okay, okay. What else? Okay, I'll come to that point. Yes, last. Okay, fine. That is more of a punitive aspect you have. Something like wearing the helmet because you essentially believe for the security purpose, or because of fine, then that is the thing. Yes, this is how, see, some common day-to-day example has to be given because it becomes more natural, okay, and some of the more formal things such as, say, for example, manual scavenging. Okay, manual scavenging, can you cite an example here? Manual scavenging because you believe that it's the human right violation. Therefore, you take an action against the manual scavenging because you believe that manual scavenging is a blatant violation of human rights. Second is manual scavenging, because there is an act, Government of India Act has passed, and therefore you think that manual scavenging should not be there. So this is how you maintain it. Yes, what else? LGBTs. LGBTs में देखो ये इसलिए example लिया है क्योंकि law says certainly different thing. There are certain examples you should write how they are complementary, but there are certain examples which can come contradiction also. So these are the challenging. Yeah, there is another question which can be framed, okay, maybe in any year. That is, law and ethics are the two aspects of controlling the human conduct, how they maintain the same, and discuss the relationship between the law and ethics. So when this question is there, that is discuss the relationship between law and ethics, it is not always complementary. Okay. In fact, sometimes, particularly in case of undemocratic countries, when the laws are framed not from the public purpose only. They are framed which are not pro-people and benefiting the authority of the day. Or maybe it has a traditional and conservative component in it. So law can be also bad. And in fact, ethics is a basis for challenging such bad laws. That is what the civil disobedience is. Again, the Gandhi has talked about the salt satyagraha. That is a violation of the law, because the law essentially here was a bad. I'm not talking about this question per se. I'm speaking something else. Okay, so there can be a relation wherein there are three parts. If the question is about relationship between ethics and law, one is both run complementary. One is essentially through the method of socialization cultivate values. Second is through the punishment. Second relationship is they can be a contradiction with each other, where ethics is more progressive, law is regressive. So in such cases, you can give like 66A, Indian IT Act. Okay, what was the 66A? Where, yes, curbing the freedom of speech and expression by using the vague words such as annoyance, irritability, etc. आपको याद होगा कि there was a girl called Shaheen was arrested in Mumbai, Palghar, हाँ, बाल ठाकरे के टाइम में, हाँ. Huh? Yes, when Shahina, somebody is there. Yes. So when the Bal Thackeray, there was a demise of this Bal Thackeray. So she wrote something on the Facebook, and she was being put into the jail and violation of under 66A IT Act. So the words which were used was annoyance. Okay, somebody which annoy. Now annoyance is a very vague word. Anything can annoy anyone. Okay. So for example, during that time there was a Mr. P. Chidambaram was a finance minister, and somebody wrote against his son. So he landed in jail directly, because that has annoyed the finance minister, the then finance minister. So there are so many cases of blatant application of the law because it was a bad law. So there can be different aspects where majority not always right. Although there is a less scope in democratic countries, but there is a scope. So this can be a second part of question where the law may be regressive. LGBT, that is section 377. So you can say that section 377 is a violation of fundamental rights or the human rights of LGBT community. So ethics is like all are equal in front of the law, but section 377 discriminate them by criminalizing the homosexuality. Okay, so that's how you can use the ethics as a source which can reform the laws. There can be third, where the law is progressive but ethics is regressive. Now ethics here, it means that based upon your traditional concepts, like say for example some of the things like temple entry and etc. Because of patriarchal attitude, few things are being justified. But law can be a more progressive, like sati pratha. Okay, sati pratha, this was a cultural acceptance, but then law was a progressive. So this can be another question also, that's the passing reference. Otherwise, here you have to more write examples wherein how the human conduct is being manipulated by the ethics on one side and the law on the other side. हाँ, etc. Yes, certainly. Parochial norms में आ जाएगा. But इसमें जो है complementary लिखना है. That's the point. In this particular case, how to differ in their approaches and give the examples. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. Our attitude towards the life, work, and the other people and the society are generally shaped unconsciously by the family and the social surrounding in which we grow up. Some of these unconsciously acquired attitudes and values are often undesirable in the citizens of modern democratic and egalitarian society. So that's rightly so. Our attitude towards the life, work, and other people in society are shaped by family and social surrounding. That's the process of socialization. But socialization word is neutral. Socialization can be a good, socialization can be a narrow also, depending upon what sort of family and surrounding that you have lived in. So some of these unconsciously acquired attitude and values are often undesirable with respect to modern democratic. So discuss such undesirable values prevalent in today's educated Indians. That is one. And second is how this undesirable attitude can be changed and social ethical values can be considered necessary, can be cultivated. Yes, first of all, discuss the undesirable values prevalent in today's educated Indians. What are the undesirable attitudes? Over religiousness. थोड़ा सा better word चाहिए. Okay, communal attitude. Okay, or justifying lack of tolerance. That is the intolerance and communal attitude. Pardon? Okay, fine. See, something which is very obvious and less controversial you should talk. Okay, I'll come to that point also. First, right, patriarchy. You have to, like, women should always talk first about the patriarchy. Okay, when they are talking about women rights, so patriarchy, this is a very general, no matter how educated you are, you will find this ubiquitous present of patriarchal attitude, okay. Caste, okay. Parochial attitude with respect to the caste, religion, race, etc. Okay. Parochial. Parochial means narrow. So that leads into the casteism, communal, okay, racial discrimination. You can even write that parochial attitude with respect to parochial attitude matlab kya hai? That is superiority of one over the other. Okay, narrowly interpreting that yours one is superior, another one is inferior, or for that matter that there is a lack of tolerance with respect to the others. That is an attitude of intolerance. So this will lead into the casteism, that is caste discrimination. This will lead into the communal conflict, okay, communal violence. This will lead into the racial discrimination. This patriarchy will lead into the gender discrimination. Yes, then what sort of attitude? Parochial attitude. In fact, nation se related hai, okay, that is a nationalism se parochial nationalistic attitude. Parochial nationalism, these days is a very common, Fawad Khan and this thing, Mahira. Unless and until we say that Fawad should go back and Mahira should go back, we cannot be a patriotic. So that's where we see that the parochial nationalistic attitude, where nationalism depends upon hatred for the other country rather than the love for your own country. समझ में आ रहा है? Patriarchal attitude, parochial nationalistic attitude, what will result into jingoism, will result into hatred for the other country. Jingoism, you understand? Chauvinism, jingoism. It's an extreme and fervent form of attitude. That is a nationalistic feeling. So that's one. What else? Yes? Intolerant, yes, that's related with this. Okay, parochial attitude leading into intolerance. Huh? Xenophobic, yes, racial discrimination, xenophobia. यहाँ पे कौन सा xenophobia है इंडिया में? Islamophobia है. I agree. Okay, हाँ. Doing an anarchism in like JNU. Like, see, इसमें भी attitude है कि now if you are a completely rightist, you will call anarchist. For the other party, and if there are some socialists, then they will call vulgar capitalism of yours. Okay, it's more of a parochial attitude in that extreme form of right or left attitude. You can say that any form of extremism and fundamentalism is a sort of a parochial attitude. Extremism, holding the extremist value for any matter. Radicalism, fundamentalism, extremism, absolutism. All four are one and the same. Okay, so that's. That can be of any value. Yes, I'll come. अरे ubiquitous मतलब कहीं पे भी मतलब, okay, कहीं पे omnipresent. हाँ, सब में, हाँ, सर्वव्यापी. more westernization. See, you have to explain because there are very socialistic terms. तो थोड़ा सा और आगे जाके समझना पड़ेगा आपको उसको. Okay. Hmm? Yes, you can say that materialistic attitude also, right? Okay, materialistic attitude is something which you can simply write. Bureaucratic attitude is also there, but I would say that here it is asked in educated Indians, so it's not per se in civil servant. So what you can do is rule-based something on that sort, you can say that. Apathetic attitude, you can say that. Apathy, materialistic attitude, then general social apathy. General social apathy, that is lack of compassion and empathy. So, sex education, okay, taboo. There are so many taboos. Taboo is because of parochial attitude. That's a thing. Bus, that's it. Okay, we have talked a lot. Elitist attitude, yes, certainly. Okay. Pardon? Yes, attitude for corruption is very important. It has become a mainstream. That's also, yes, materialistic and consumeristic attitude towards corruption, that corruption becomes the mainstream. So this is something which we see that, in fact, you could have written one line on this, the parochial attitude towards the corruption, in the sense that corruption has become a sort of oil or a grease which help in running the smooth administrative machinery. Okay, that's an attitude. It means that you are considering corruption as sort of an grease, okay, catalyst, which help in smooth running of complex administrative machinery. So if you are considering, it means that you have accepted corruption, rather than considering that this complex administrative machinery has to be made more efficient. Okay, rather than that, you are saying that it cannot be made more efficient, you have to just oil, and that oil is nothing but corruption, bribe. Mahatma Gandhi के पैसे देने पड़ेंगे, okay, magenta pink देना पड़ेगा अभी, okay, earlier time there was a different. Yes, so this sort of attitude you can, now we have, you got the point, that is how you have to write. In fact, LGBT sexual discrimination also can be one part, like with regard to this transgenders and LGBT communities. What is the second? Where is the question? Okay. How can such undesirable attitudes be changed in socio-economic values and considered necessary, cultivated in aspiring and serving this? यहाँ पे आप थोड़ा सा एक लाइन में लिखो कि कैसे attitude चाहिए. It should be more rational, more secular, more impartial, more tolerance. एक ही लाइन में लिखो, क्योंकि उसके ऊपर नहीं लिखना है, because this question is about how, which नहीं है इसमें. Okay, so just lie that in this context we have to inculcate the values of or attitude with respect to gender equality, tolerance, then this inclusive nationalism, etc., impartiality, etc., etc. You can write empathy and compassion, because we have somewhere talked about social apathy. So social empathy and compassion, so that there will be a more positive values and attitude can be inculcated. Now, how we are going to do that? That's the second question. How we are going to do that? यहाँ पे दो पूछा हुआ है, cultivated in aspiring as well as serving civil servant. Okay, so aspiring civil servant in a sense that through the, yes. Reading autobiography, okay, that is a self aspect. See, the thing is different is you have to identify different agent of socialization, and different agent of socialization has a lot of role to play. One is before joining the civil services, and one is after joining the services. After joining the services, this is in the form of code of conduct and code of ethics. That is what we have already discussed. That is, code of conduct are specific guidelines, code of ethics are general guidelines. So people should be reoriented. Okay, there is a word called reorientation of attitude. Reorientation इसलिए आता है क्योंकि already there is a one parochial attitude which is prevalent, which is undesirable. Therefore, we need to reorient in a more modern manner. So civil servants के point of view से आप code of conduct, code of ethics, different training programs, etc. लिख सकते हो. बाकी के लिए क्या लिख सकते हो? बाकी के लिए different agents of socialization. This you can in fact say that the process should start from family. Attitude cannot be changed overnight. Okay, it cannot be changed overnight. So it should start from the family, then through the educational system, then peer group, then your society in which you are living, media, social media. So these different agents of socialization help in changing the attitude. And then again the issues with respect to persuasion, etc. So that's how you have to write. So I don't think so. If you know the agent of socialization, you can bring, and then for the civil servants, training and more formal methods of attitudinal formation. Okay, that is it. Let's move on to the next question. Yes, very good. You can write, but the thing is, syllabus is already article. Paper ethics has been introduced. You could have written that. Maybe it might fetch a good marks. Okay, something which you are writing. In fact, that is the whole objective of introduction of paper 4. All of you must be. I don't know when you have started preparation. 3 years back, there was no ethics paper. So this was newly introduced paper because many of the committees have suggested that interview is not sufficient enough to check the attitude of person, because unless they make it, they fake it, and therefore you befool it. So we need a structured mechanism through this means. That's the one of the reason for why they have introduced, but people here also fake. Okay, that's not an issue here. Because people know that environment has to be preserved, empathy, compassion, tolerance, बाकी कुछ भी किया जाए. Yes, so yes, you are absolutely correct. So it means that more modern values has to come from that. Education. See, the thing is, through the education, again education, modern, secular, rational education. Education के through भी parochial values चली जाती हैं, ठीक है? So ultimately it boils down to investment in education, modern. नहीं, any example नहीं है. See, I got your point absolutely that in fact these are the agent of socialization who are instrumental in cultivating narrow values. Now, we are saying that these are the agent which should emphasize modern values. It means that once you educate the generation with respect to the values through the school, now this particular generation become a family for the next generation. Okay? Now they become so more modern. So when you will cultivate to your kids, you will be more modern. So this is how the process should go on. Apart from education and family, which are the fundamental, उसके beyond जो है methods of persuasion है, methods of reward and punishment है, methods of role modeling जो हमने discuss किया था स्वच्छ भारत में. But there is a limit what one can achieve through the external force, because formative stage of life is most important for the attitude inculcation. Formative stage of life, you are understanding. This is starting. See, it's very easy to write on a blank slate rather than erasing something and then putting. So, इसलिए जो है civil servant, one of the thing is that civil servant catch them young. इसलिए बोला जाता है ताकि उनमें थोड़ा सा अच्छे attitude डाले जा सकते ट्रेनिंग में. नहीं तो मसूरी training becomes a plan holiday and people enjoy a lot. I don't want to say much thing here because the very point is there is a rigidity when you become adult. You say that okay, government is doing, they have to do it, and this is how the thing is. You take it casually. The more and more you become adult, more and more rigidity is there. So that's how formative stage of life becomes more important. Okay, let's move on to the next. That's a very interesting question. Anger is a harmful negative emotion. Okay, it is injurious to both personal as well as the work life. Discuss how it leads to the negative emotions and undesirable behavior. And second is how can it be managed and controlled. Okay, so there are two parts. The first A part is how anger leads to the negative emotions and undesirable behavior. Yes, what are the negative emotions, undesirable, and how you are going to write it? Yes, hatred. Or thoda sa explain karo. Hostile behavior, violence. Rationality, very good. What else? Without considering the consequences, you take the decision. Break up. Okay. So these are all the things. Okay, yes, what else? How will you going to articulate this answer in a more structured way? Okay, yes.
Anger clouds your judgment and it makes you prone to emotional decisions.
Yes, very good. In fact, you can say that anger is a very strong emotion. And this is a negative emotion. So actually क्या होता है? There are two parts, cognitive part and affective part. Cognitive part is your thinking part and affective component is your emotional component. So यहाँ पे जो है, when anger is there is a overwhelming emotional response which suppresses your cognitive response. Are you understanding? The judgmental aspect is less, cognitive aspect is less, and it becomes a more emotional. Now, what is this emotion? This is a negative emotion. If it would have been empathy, we would not have said it. Okay, that empathy, you should not overwhelmed by the empathy, वगैरह ऐसे नहीं. You should not overwhelmed by the compassion. You should not get overwhelmed by the anger because it suppresses your cognitive ability, judgmental ability, and therefore the negative things happen. So this is how you can introduce and then say that negative emotions, along with that there will be a component of jealousy, there will be a component of hatred, there will be a component of frustration at individual level also. So the question is saying both at the personal life, work life, at individual level also and at the work level also. So along with anger, what comes is a frustration, it comes the hatred, it comes the negativity, hostility, intolerance, okay, these aspects emotional. And undesirable behavior, it get reflected into undesirable behavior. So what are undesirable behavior? Taking unreasonable decisions, then maybe causing in violence, maybe in the physical assault, okay, use of drugs and all, okay, at individual level maybe, okay, yes, Devdas, Promotes which culture? Gun culture. Okay, fine. Any sort of undesirable behavior. So you can say that something which is undesirable in a sense that undesirable decision. Decision is not based upon impartiality and objectivity, but it is swayed away by the decision. Physical assault, violence, and this. Yes, on the long term there are many consequences. In the work life, you can say that it hampers your productivity. It hampers your relationship with colleagues, it hampers the work culture, okay, there are other aspects. So divide it at individual, first talk what are the negative emotions that are associated and how it is undesirable behavior at individual end and undesirable behavior with respect to the others. Now the important question is that how it can be managed and controlled. Yoga, counseling, okay. How counseling, yes. Please come up with the counseling. Anger मुझे आ रहा है, आप मुझे बोलोगे कि चलो थोड़ा सा काउंसलिंग करते हैं. Build up. Yes, very good. Good. So we are going to do certain long term also and certain immediate. इमीडिएट लिखो, शॉर्ट टर्म मतलब शॉर्ट भी बहुत लॉन्ग रहता है, ठीक है, तब तक पूरा कहानी खत्म हो जाती है एंगर में. Okay, immediate, yes. Biological, that is a parasympathetic nervous system get activated. But who is activating parasympathetic nervous system is your psychological component. Okay, that is a biological component when you get overwhelmed by the anger. If you manage, then it will not. Okay. So how to manage it? Let him. Okay. So see, these are the. I'll come to that part. This is something. Yes, this is neurological disorder. What you are talking about? No, that is not something which is a normal physiological response. In some cases, there can be a problem where there can be a polar disorders. Okay, extreme anger, extreme this thing. So that is a medication and clinical psychology. Okay, let's talk about sane, normal people who are getting angry. Understand and see, okay, that component is important, understanding the emotions and then managing. That is something what we call, see, somewhere you have to drop this word, emotional intelligence. Okay, because this, if you are not dropping this word, it means that you are just writing a general answer. Okay, ultimately you have to write general answer only, but see that anger can be managed through the emotional intelligence. Emotionally intelligent person can manage the anger because anger is one of the extreme emotion. So emotional intelligence definition क्या है कि intelligently managing the emotions as per the situation. So इसमें in fact 4 component रहते हैं, लेकिन यहाँ पे जो है 2 important है, जैसे I and others. So emotional intelligence is about understanding one's emotion at individual level, understanding, and then managing emotions, then understanding the emotions of others, and the managing the interpersonal relationship. So there are 4 components of emotional intelligence: understanding emotions, managing emotions within oneself, and understanding and managing things with respect to the others. That is what is called as emotional intelligence. Now, when we say that understanding and management, there are 2 parts. Before management of anger, it is also important that we should understand that we are angry. Most of the times, we get angry, we already react to it, and after some time, we feel repentance about it. And you yourself say that had I been in a sane position, I would not have taken this particular decision. It means that you haven't bothered to understand what was the negative feeling that was there at a given point of time. So before management, what it comes is you should introspect, or you should understand that you are in a anger. Okay. So that is what is the first thing is we are going to discuss is what is the management of anger. So in case of management, some of the steps you can, or some you can write. That is recognition and identification of anger. That is an emotion. First is recognition and understanding of anger. Recognition and understanding of anger. That you are angry. That is first more important, because many consider that they were not angry. Second is understanding the negative consequences of anger. First is are you able to appreciate the difference between the 2? First is you are understanding and recognizing that you are angry. Second, you are understanding now there are negative consequences of anger, that I am not supposed to take the decision. Third, rather than giving a knee-jerk reaction, or rather than reaction, one should respond to the situation. Okay? Rather than reaction, one should respond. One should respond to the situation. Now, what is this responding to the position? Responding to the position, maybe you bring the delay in your response so that you allow your cognitive mind also to judge that what can be the apt decision in a particular situation. So you are not letting the emotional upheaval to take the decision and get carried away by suppressing the cognitive mind. So that is responding rather than reacting to the situation. There can be other techniques also, like engaging with some other things, that is diverting attention from the situation. Fourth is diverting attention from the stimulus which is responsible for the anger, or source. Diverting attention from the source which has generated the anger. Now there are various techniques. You should not keep on this thing, but just engaging your sensory organs to something else. Like if you are, some people enchant the mantras, count the numbers 10, 5, मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा ऐसे भी रहता है. ऐसे नहीं जोर जोर से count करना है, मतलब अपने मन में ही. So that you if you are visually good, then concentrate on something so that it gives some time for you. Okay, or listening to the music, put the leads into your lead pieces into your ear and listen to some good song. That will help you in controlling the temperament. So the sensory organs help you in diverting the attention from the source. So that's the fourth point. Now these are the immediate step so that you can control your things, and then there can be a more response. So first is understanding. Then second is about the management, understanding the negative consequences, responding to the situation, getting away from the source which has generated the anger, and engaging oneself into some other activity, and then taking a time, delay response, etc. So that's also how you control the anger at individual level. Now there are certain long-term or indirect, where we can say that the things such as you can write yoga. Now it has been more or less proven that yoga helps in controlling the anger. Meditation, yoga, any kind of exercise, okay, that help in maintaining your controlled behavior. Counseling also, right? In the end, counseling in the long terms, counseling with regard to that, these all education. Okay, counseling matlab kya rehta hai ki that you need to tell that this is how you can go through, this is how you can go through. And then in abnormal and pathological cases, clinical counseling and medication. But I will not suggest medication, okay? Medication se anger control, there is a serious problem. Okay, there is a pathology. Okay, this is a physiological activity which you can control, I guess. Okay. Yes, this is how you can write. Yes, somebody was raising the doubt. Yes. This is because we do not introspect. We haven't thought over it. अगर ये आप पहले exercise करोगे, and you make it as a practice, then it becomes your habit. Because we do not pay attention to these 4 or 5 things. Therefore, it happens. So there has to be a conscious attempt that you want to control the anger. Otherwise, if there is no conscious attempt, then you get carried away by the और भी थोड़ा सा लिखा जा सकता है ये इंडिविजुअल लेवल के, अगर अदर्स के ऊपर जो है, मे बी some person is angry, so understanding the other situation etc and responding it in a more constructive manner with respect to the others. Okay, that is the component. Modern education, moral education and anger, no. Immoral and moral people can be equally angry. Okay. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि that's emotional intelligence and moral, okay, two different aspects. Although yes, some people have wrote it, if you can write that way. There is another component to anger. Anger per se is not bad, how you react to the anger is what it counts. Because Kailash Satyarthi has said that it is the anger which has helped me in thinking in a more constructive manner. That when the child right and child abuse, child labor was happening, I was getting absolutely angry. I could have done it, that breaking the glass and etc. That's also an anger. But I have tamed my anger in a more positive manner. Because see, the thing is, anything which is a strong emotion, how we channelize, it causes the destruction and breaking of something also, and it can also give rise to a more constructive thing. Okay, so that's another way of putting the anger across. Okay, it's bring more aggression. Like if the Virat Kohli is there, anger is there, so he will not broke the stumps down. Okay, the anger that it will like see in a more passionate form. So that's how there is another way. But here the question was more about anger is harmful negative emotion. So it was talking about more on that line. So you may conclude if the anger can be managed well, so one can sell well or good in life. Yes, next question. That is with regard to the Max Weber has said that it is not wise to apply the public administration of sort of moral and ethical norms as we apply to the matter of personal conscience. It is important to realize that the state bureaucracy might possess its own independent bureaucratic morality. Okay. Now this question is actually the debate in between. There are various debates here. One is the private sphere and public sphere. Okay, largely. That is private or personal morality versus morality in public. That is one thing. Second is, that is individual conscience or a source of morality versus organizational ethics. Okay, organizational or professional ethics or the collective morality. So what may be right and true at individual level, personal level or in private level may not be a moral at organizational level, public level. Okay, so that's the thing here they are trying to say that although there are certain other scholars who say that there is essential continuity between the personal morality and the public morality. Okay, if you are not personally moral, then you cannot be publicly moral. But here, the Max Weber wanted to come to some of the conclusion that when it becomes a bureaucracy, there are certain norms for which the bureaucracy is being recognized. These norms may not be so-called ethical norms at individual level, or the other way around, so-called ethical norms at individual level cannot be the norms for the organizational level. At organizational level, you need a different sets of principles. Now, this is just to make you understand what is the question. Now, how to start and go ahead with the question. Question, in fact, says that critically analyze the statement. Okay, it means that there is an inherent contradiction also, okay, and that contradiction that we have to find it out. First of all, start saying that Max Weber has come up with the idea of bureaucracy, okay, and bureaucracy which is based, the most important single most thing is it is a rule-based governance, okay, rule-based authority or rule-based governance. So rules and regulations are the most important thing. There will be a hierarchy, there will be a different positioning, and your functions flows from a particular rule. So what is morality here is following the rules and regulations of organization. Whatever the rules and regulations, they can be codified in the form of code of conduct and code of ethics. So as long as you become a part of bureaucracy, you require to follow the rule-based authority or rule-based ethics. Now this you can explain that first, so this is the meaning of it. Max Weber's bureaucratic ethics is nothing but rule-based governance or rule-based authority. You need to follow the rules, and rules are the gods in bureaucracy as per the Max Weber. Then you explain that yes, Max Weber was right because we need to bring objectivity, we need to bring impartiality, we have to stop the discretion so that the decision can be more objective and impartial in nature. So do not say that he was wrong completely. He was right because his intention was there has to be objectivity and impartiality in the decision making. And for the organization, this is a most fundamental thing, that maintaining the objectivity and impartiality. This also helps in decreasing the space for discretion where there is a possibility of misuse of power. That is lack of rule. There is a scope for misuse of power because a person might take the decision as per his whims and fancies. It may create a more scope for favoritism, nepotism, different sorts of things if the rules are not being followed. So to this extent, the Max Weber is right that organizational ethics has to be important, and that can be quite different from the personal ethics. Now, having said that, second point you have to see that yes, what is the second point in the second paragraph? Because question says that critically analyze the statement. What points you can bring in the second para? First para, defining the bureaucracy as per the Max Weber and telling its significance. Yes, it is important because you have to keep your personal emotions and personal morality at bay, and you have to follow the organizational and professional morality. Critically analyze, what should be the second paragraph? Or can you think of anything more than Max Weber? It's not very difficult if you are, yes, okay.
Something for, specifically for bureaucracy says something that cannot be imposed, that it will be what they themselves follow and understand.
Rule based, okay, I'll come to that point. Yes, what else? Yes. Very good. Okay, yes, please. Yes, in fact that was the debate. जो good governance or ethical governance का debate था कि see, Max Weber was right in saying that we require a rule for maintaining objectivity and impartiality. But think of if 65-year-old lady is coming for the Aadhaar card, she does not have the papers with her. Okay, there is one case study for us, same. And if she do not have the papers with us, and she is coming for getting the entitlement for the Food Security Act, okay, but she do not have the paper. Now, according to the Max Weber, rule is a god. You cannot tamper with the rule. Now, in this situation, if rule becomes means and means become end in itself. But for the government, it is also important that you have to see the public interest in a given context. So, although the rules are important, but rule cannot be the only thing. Okay, in certain situation, you have to also bring in empathy, compassion, etc. In fact, Weberian bureaucracy was a Western model of bureaucracy. In Western model of bureaucracy, Western society is already developed. So, therefore, rules are required. It's already a developed society. But in case of India, it is underdeveloped society. People are illiterate. People do not have accessibility towards the system. They are not aware of their entitlement. So in this context, you cannot be 100% rule bound. In fact, this rule bound attitude is what the being tagged as a bureaucratic apathy. Because this is the bureaucratic model which is superimposed on underdeveloped society like India, because it has a British model. So इसमें क्या हो गया कि रूल के ऊपर बहुत फोकस किया गया, and because too much of focusing on the rule, although it is important, but now the bureaucracy has earned the tag of bureaucratic apathy. It is insensitive and indifferent towards the problem of society and the public at large. So in this context, if you see that bureaucratic rules and regulations are required, but at the same time there has to be certain flexibility, and this flexibility based upon circumstances. Based upon circumstances that you need to show the empathy, you need to show the compassion, you need to bring democratic attitude also. Okay, in fact, last year there was a question, bureaucratic attitude and democratic attitude. Bureaucratic attitude is a rule-based attitude. Democratic attitude is building the consensus, involving the people into the decision-making process and listening to their problems and then making the decision rather than blindly going with the rules or purely rule based. So that is what you have to write, that Max Weber has said that. Yes, Max Weber has rightly said so, because for organization there are different functions, and if they want to carry out the functions in a more professional manner, okay, and more effective manner, they have to follow the rules, but at the same times it has to be complemented by some other aspects, such as there has to be flexibility, there has to be responsiveness, there has to be empathy and compassion, so that democratic aspect should also can be brought in. And you can say that this is all the more important in case of Indian context. In fact, मैक्स वेबर के जो आइडियल टाइप ब्यूरोक्रेसी है, इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में काफ़ी सारे ब्यूरोक्रेटिक मॉडल इवॉल्व हुए हैं. ओके, दैट इज रिग्स मॉडल है, ओके, सो साला मॉडल है, बहुत सारे मॉडल्स है कि ब्यूरोक्रेसी जो है वहाँ पे टास्क ऑफ ब्यूरोक्रेसी इज जस्ट अ स्टाफ एजेंसी that is implementing the rules and regulations. Here bureaucracy is not just about rules and regulations, they are the leaders, they are the agent of change. So since the people are, and that's why there is a, in India, bureaucracy is a very lucrative career, because there is a lot of power, and with the power you are not just a, like bureaucracy में हिंदी में क्या बोला जाता है bureaucracy को? नौकरशाही. तो नौकरशाही के लिए मतलब MNC छोड़ के नौकरशाही करने कोई नहीं आएगा. Because in third world countries there is a lot of power that has been given because of it was a British model. Now that British model has lost its utility. In fact, there are more problems of the British and the Western notion of bureaucracy. We have to customize it in the context of India. So that's how you have to write. Okay. So that's a broader theme. You should remember. You should also not say that rule is not important. That's the point. Rule plus democratic methods. Now let's come to the, yes, briefly to the case studies. I hope you have gone to the case studies once. How many of you have not gone through the case studies? Please raise so that I can briefly tell what is the gist of the case study. All of you have gone through the case studies at least once? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll briefly give what is the case study rather than going line by line. Question number 9, that is the first case study, fresh engineer graduate job in a prestigious chemical. Shall I read it completely or shall I tell you the gist? Gist, okay. See, there is a girl who is doing well in her job, engineering graduate woman who is doing a good in her job in a chemical industry. Now, what is happening in that industry? She is getting a good salary. She is happy with her job. Everything is going well. But there is something which is not in sync with the moral principles, that she accidentally discovers that her industry, chemical industry, is throw some toxic waste into the river nearby. Now, this is causing health problems, etc., etc. She has, in fact, spoken to the colleagues also, but they haven't responded positively to her. Positively in a sense that they have said that, okay, fine, you should ignore it, sort of thing. Also, it is being written that she is the sole breadwinner of her family and has support to ailing parents and siblings. So at this point of time, she has thought that as the seniors have told her to remain quiet, okay, she should not raise the voice. Now, at heart, she feels that sort of there is a moral conscience, individual conscience, which dictates her that everything is not right if I remain silent. But she is confused. Now, she thinks that you are a wise person, okay, as it is written here. She thinks that you are a wise person and seeks your advice. So you have to like give an advice like a wise man, like a Socrates. Okay, what are the arguments? Okay, question. Let's come to the question. What are the arguments that you can advance to show her that keeping quiet is not morally correct? Okay, remaining silent is not morally correct. And what course of action do you advise her to adopt and why? Okay, first, why you will see that it's not correct to be morally right. Quite to be morally. See, the thing is, in fact, it is being said, there is a one quotation which can sum up everything. That is, bad things in a society is not out of people are bad, but the wise people or the moral people remain silent. Okay, that is the tyranny of the majority is to gain a strong foothold. Only requirement thing is people of moral conscience remain silent. Okay, when the people of moral conscience remain silent, then there will be a tyranny. Tyranny, you understand? Okay, that is all the bad elements. So, in fact, you can say that now there can be various things can be forwarded. Reasons being, A, that is this activity that is toxic waste. Okay, itself is an immoral act because A, it affects the health. Larger public interest is getting hampered. A is larger public interest is getting hampered because the health issues are involved. And therefore, she should speak about it. Second, environment, okay, river and environment issue, that is getting degraded. That is B. Health issue is A, environment is B. C is what we call as a corporate ethical governance, okay, or this is called as, it is against the ethos of good corporate governance. Okay, it is against the ethos of good corporate governance or ethical corporate governance. In fact, so these are the 3 points. Okay, one is at larger public interest, second is environment, and third is organization. It is against the organization. So she should speak about it. Now the point is, these are the direct answers, but how you have to like make it more spicy and elongate your answer. First of all, introduce the question. Okay, pehle introduction likho ki what is the dilemma for her. Okay, she is in the ethical dilemma. That the ethical dilemma is larger public interest versus personal interest. Okay, the ethical dilemma she is in is larger public interest or society's interest versus the personal interest. Now, what is a personal interest? If she will raise the voice, maybe she will have to face the negative consequences. Maybe she will be suspended from the job, and it is already mentioned that she is the only breadwinner of the family. So there are certain moral consideration why she is not speaking, because on the other side there are certain personal cost that is involved if she speaks. So write that also in a dilemma, that is, this is a case of public interest versus personal cost dilemma. Personal values that are involved are this, but at the same time you can say that the public's values, which is the larger health issue, that is a public health issue, larger this environmental issue, and wrong ethical practices in the organization. Therefore, in this context, she should speak, she should come forward for the larger public interest and just not look into the personal interest. Please. Yes, but the thing is, how does it relate with the not speaking and speaking? So putting more resources for or against, she should or she should not. That's a natural consequence. Okay, that's not a consideration for her really. Okay, personal and environmental consideration. Yes, government will have to spend more money. Okay. Yes, very good. Yes, you can. Yes, yes. Yes, yes, very good. In fact, there is a concept called cognitive dissonance. Just now I have mentioned cognitive dissonance. जो बताया था. What is cognitive dissonance? There is a depression that you go through when your action does not match with your conscience. Okay, there is a limit with which you can have the two different things: what you think in your mind and what you actually practice. So over the period of time, she start thinking, okay, depressing, that I think that this is a wrong thing to do, but still I am practicing it. So that has to be stopped. Cognitive dissonance, mat likhiye ye word. It may create a conflict of thoughts in her mind, so that she may face the anxiety, depression, and therefore she may not able to contribute more for the organization also, and she will not keep herself happy also at individual level. Are you understanding? This will lead into the conflict of thoughts in a long run. When there is a conflict of thoughts, you feel anxiety, depression, and you will not able to work in a more productive manner. So that hamper your efficiency also. Is it fine? Okay. So there are 4 reasons: environmental, health, organizational, and individual reasons. And moral duty, बाकी तो और मतलब spices डाल ही सकते हो. Virtue ethics, moral duty, constitutional obligation, ये वो बाकी तो है. Yes, what course of action you are going to advise her and why? See here they haven't asked about the options, so you have to straightforward write the course of action and you have to write why course of action. Now we know that she has to first of all say that she cannot remain silent. Okay, she should speak about it. That's the first you should start, that she should speak about it. She should raise the voice against the wrongdoings. In fact, it is injustice if you will not raise the voice against the wrongdoings. In fact, you can write in a negative way if she remains silent. ऊपर में लिखा जा सकता है, यही बताया था मैंने कि अगर आपके पास पॉइंट नहीं है तो पॉजिटिवली लिखो और निगेटिवली लिखो. इफ शी रिमेन क्वाइट देन इट विल embolden their spirit, and then this thing continue to hamper, etc., etc. So second may she should speak. That's the first point. Now once we have written what she should speak, there is a graded way we can write. Okay, we know that whistleblowing should be there, but even before whistleblowing, because for the whistleblowing there is a dilemma. There are two types of dilemmas for her. First of all, organizational image will get tarnished in public. Okay, that's also aspect for any person, employee working in an organization, that organizational image should not get tarnished in the long run. And second dilemma for her is, if she blow the whistle publicly, then she may be suspended and removed from the job. So she has to also take into account that. So course of action can be graded one. First of all, she should talk to her seniors and give a written, like, see, always write whenever such wrongdoing is objective. That is first he should talk. Second is she should collect the objective evidences, because it cannot be a subjective assumption that okay, this industry mein itna ja raha hai. She should have an objective evidences about it. She should collect the objective evidences and speak to the seniors and give it in writing that these are the things which are happening and taken measures against it. If they remain silent, then talk to the higher ups. Okay, the hierarchy. Okay, higher ups may talk karo. If they remain silent now, or they say that you should not speak about it, then any internal vigilant agency मतलब internal whistleblowing और external whistleblowing, ऐसे दो रहते हैं. Internal whistleblowing is something internal independent body which takes into account the complaints. So you can complain that I have written the letter to the senior officials, but all are remain silent. Therefore, you are blowing the lead, but inside the organization. If again there is no response, then you are forced to blow the lead for the larger public interest. So perhaps maybe you will get a response from the senior or top senior, or maybe the internal, because you have already taken into account both dilemmas, that is the organizational image as well as the larger public interest. But when the whole organization is corrupt, including the vigilant organization, then you have to blow the whistle. So this is how you have to write. Have you understood this point? Okay, please do not write that I will do this, that. You are not an authority. The question is not talking about I will go and join some NGO, environmental NGO, I will dial to this and that, etc. That's not what is expected. I will spend some funding out of me in order to clear the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, ye वगैरह कुछ नहीं है, ठीक है? So that's not the thing. I hope the point is clear. Yes, any point? Yes, please. So that is what the ethics is about. In certain situation when the public health and etc. is there, in fact, first A, B and C steps are because of that. So, yes, we have said that objective evidences means, yes, documentation. She will get another job. Okay, but people are not that kind and optimistic. Yes, certainly. No, say there are two things again. Yes, last resort, or you can write to government regulatory authority also. See, okay. Yes, he will do your half of the. Yes, there. See, in certain cases, all the actions may not be individually possible. Okay. Now here you are a part of organization. Therefore, this. Think of an employee who is not a part of organization and he came to know about it. What will be your answer? Are you understanding the question? The same story, but this lady or the girl is not a part of organization. She's just a common man, mango people, okay? But she has seen this. In such cases, you have to bring media, you have to bring NGO, you have to bring government, because one person individually cannot do the things. So वहाँ पे जो response होगा, वो completely अलग होगा. She does not have this dilemma tarnishing the image of organization, etc. That moral dilemma is not there for her, so simply she can involve the public in a sense that media, civil society, social media, NGOs, through which she can create a more voice to the problem. Have you understood the point? Okay. So the next question is with regard to land needing for the mining. Okay, I'll just briefly tell that there is certain land acquisition and sort of thing is going on, but this land acquisition area involves the area of Adivasis, hilly dwellers and rural community. Okay. The area of land acquisition that is coming from the Adivasi, hilly dweller and the rural community. So there is going to be an problems such as problem of rehabilitation and etc. And it is also being said in this case that people who are living in that area, they do not know any other, they don't hone any sort of skill, so that if they can be removed from that, they can be absorbed in some other business. So for them, that land, particular given land is very, very important. Okay, and therefore that land and their importance has been mentioned. Okay, यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है, they do not possess the marketable skills to engage in some other occupation. They end up in low-paid migrant laborers, and their traditional ways of community living will be destroyed if the land is acquired. So in this case, the benefits of development will go to only the industries, to the urban communities, etc., etc. So this unjust distribution of the cost as beneficial is unethical. So what does the whole question means? That if the land and this will be acquired, only industry and capitalists will grow, and they will grow at the cost of the problems of Adivasis, hilly dwellers and rural community. Now the question says that suppose you are given the task of drafting compensation cum rehabilitation policy of such displaced people. How would you approach the problems and what will be the main elements of your suggested policy? Yes. What is, if you are in a situation, what should be the compensation cum rehabilitation policy for such displaced person? How do you approach the problems and what will be the main elements of your policy? Yes. So that's not a very difficult question, I would say. Environment assessment impact. Okay, very good. Environment assessment also social assessment. EIA and SIA. Okay. So the policy is compensation cum rehabilitation. Okay, one point I can take, that is environment impact assessment and social impact assessment. Okay. Okay, very good. In fact, involvement of stakeholders, that the decision should not be taken arbitrarily. It should be involvement of participatory approach. Participatory approach in decision making. Whatever the decision you are going to do and policy you are going to frame, policy should not be made arbitrarily in air. Policy should be made by involving the people. Okay, that is a participatory approach. That is by involving the stakeholders. Okay, involving all the stakeholders which are getting affected by this decision directly or indirectly. That is a stakeholder approach. Yes. What else? Okay, local should be like, okay, fine. See, the thing is, when the industry is there, you have to take certain raw material and certain labor. Okay, so this has to be collected from the, again, from the source. Yes. ट्राइबल पंचशील. ओके, ठीक है. ट्राइबल पंचशील है तो आप फिर आगे ही नहीं जा पाओगे. मतलब है इंपॉर्टेंट वैसे ट्राइबल पंचशील. नहीं, लास्ट नहीं है, फिलोसॉफिकली पॉइंट है, पहले ही लिखना चाहिए. But I'll explain that how we see. The thing is, let me tell first what should be the structure of answer. Structure of answer should be just a second. Structure of answer should be what is the question? That is, it's only one question. Formulate the compensation cum rehabilitation policy and what are the factors. So your question first, introduction should be what are the ethical issues involved. Okay, first introduction में थोड़ा सा लिखो कि this tribal and their particular rights. In fact, you have to write tribal and their all problems जो भी लिखे हुए हैं वहाँ पे. Cultural aspect, employment aspect, livelihood aspect, survival, etc. But do not forget about writing the developmental part also. That is a consequential ethics versus deontological ethics जो बोला जाता है. Okay, they are talking about the development also. So you can say that there is a larger debate with respect to upholding the tribal and traditional rights versus the development. So that's an ethical dilemma, how to balance this equation. So this first you write that this is an ethical issue and we need to balance both. That development should not happen at the cost of tribal rights or a violation of or exploitation of the tribals, and tribal rights upholding should not be the consideration or stumbling blocks for the development. Both can go hand in hand. In the second, you can write what are the principles that you are going to follow. Okay, in general, philosophical principles you can follow. Philosophical principles you can follow is, first is justice. Okay, second is you can say that the socioeconomic justice. Second is this about the participatory approach in decision making, fairness, inclusive growth, sustainable development. So these are the principles which will be my consideration for formulating the policy. Okay, first is what are the ethical issues. In that, against these ethical issues, this will be my approach. I will take this as a benchmark for formulating my policy. Now, what will be the policy look like? I am incorporating EI, SI and Gram Sabha because participatory is my approach. Then tribal Panchashil, in fact, tribal Panchashil can be written in the principles. Okay, in principles you can write social justice, inclusive growth, sustainable development, fairness, etc., etc. And then now you can formulate the policy. In the policy, there are certain hints here: compensation and rehabilitation. So you can simply come forward a compensation, that one-time compensation, some lump sum money can be given based upon the market value. Okay. In fact, I remember this Amravati model है उसमें land pooling में. Okay, if you know the Amravati model, Amravati का महाराष्ट्र का Amravati. What we are talking about? Andhra Pradesh में Amravati है. Okay, there is Amravati which came in prelims, I think, in for Maharashtra वाला जो था, या फिर last year आया था, कुछ caves वगैरह है. So here we are talking about that land pooling में क्या उनका model है. This model in fact can be taken as, उसमें जो है एक तो lump sum दे ही दिया है, प्लस उनको इन्वॉल्व किया है फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म डेवलपमेंटल प्रोसेस. लाइक से फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ देयर इज अ एकरेज ऑफ लैंड इज देयर, ओके, अ लंप सम कॉम्पेंसेशन इज गिवन. ओके, वन टाइम कॉम्पेंसेशन प्लस जितना भी बिल्ट अप एरिया उन्होंने डेवलपमेंटल कुछ बिल्डिंग बनाई है तो उसमें से कुछ उसमें स्टेक होल्डर्स ओनरशिप राइट दिए है उसको. सो यू आर नॉट लूजिंग योर ओनरशिप राइट ऑल्सो, एंड प्लस देयर इज अ वन टाइम कॉम्पेंसेशन ऑल्सो. कई बार क्या हो जाता है वन टाइम कॉम्पेंसेशन के बाद, व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम विथ वन टाइम कॉम्पेंसेशन? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, दैट मनी कैन बी मिसयूज्ड और फॉर अदर पर्पसेस. सेकंड थिंग, देयर इज नो दैट इज नॉट सस्टेनेबल. Okay, there is no sustainable means of livelihood. Then third is there is a lack of ownership. There is an emotive issue also. Emotive issue, you understand. Once you lack that, you do not belong to land and etc. So there are issues. So these issues can be brought in through the participatory approach, wherein one-time compensation, some lump sum can be given. At the same time, rehabilitation in the form. Now you can. Break will break you permanently. Okay, it will not be a recess school wala. Yes. Anyways, one can move out for 5 minutes. Okay, ऐसे कुछ नहीं है कि एकदम ही dictatorial class चल रहा है यहाँ पे कि you cannot make a move. Okay, you can. हाँ, ethical, democratic approach है काफी. Yes, where what I was explaining. Yes, one-time compensation is there. Then, see, the question says that they do not have the skills, etc. So obviously, जो भी industry and development कर रहे हो, you can include them in the developmental process also. So not only a one-time compensation, but including the people into the developmental process. How cultivate some skills into them so that they can able to absorb into the developmental process. In fact, you have to tell that this will make them sustainable. This will also empower them. This will also resolve the problems of livelihood and rest of the other concerns. And some sort of ownership rights also can be given. It's not just the participation, but they can be also been considered as one of the stakeholders in the decision-making process and ownership. Apart from that, rehabilitation may, you can say that this aspect, compensation in this may address their livelihood concerns and socio-economic concerns, but in the larger interest, we also have to think about all-round development of tribals. So in all-round development of tribals, if they are their educational aspect, their health aspect, and the rest of the other security aspect should be taken into account, so that a complete package will be given. That rather than this development as an bane for them, it should be considered as a boon for them, so that all the problems which I have mentioned, cultural and livelihood, can be addressed. Okay, so you can give certain. Yes, please. हाँ, ट्राइबल पंचशील एक्चुअली ये पंचशील वर्ड है इंडिया और चाइना के बीच में, जो फेमस हुआ था, जो झोनू एनलाई और नेहरू वगैरह 1954 में व्हेन दे हैव साइन द टिबेट एग्रीमेंट. तो उसमें जैसे कुछ एक कॉन्सेप्ट से नॉन इंटरवेंशन, ओके, सो हाँ, नॉन अलाइन नहीं, non interference, no aggression, no interference, etc. So here on the same lines, those principle has to be applied while dealing with the tribals. Tribals has unique culture, so without disturbing their own culture, okay, जैसे होता है ना कि uprooting their culture, mainstreaming is fine, but mainstreaming should not happen at the cost of uprooting of their culture. Okay, we have to also respect their culture while we are developing. So that is called tribal panchashil. So in a sense that you have to respect the tribal culture and their customary practices while making a development. ठीक है? But tribal panchashil, there are strict, बहुत strict हो जाएगा वो कि क्योंकि आप बहुत ज़्यादा वो नहीं कर पाओगे उसमें, ठीक है? But yes, right, the spirit of tribal panchashil has to be followed, okay, rather than tribal panchashil has to be followed. Okay, so that's how you can articulate. There is nothing much, and give certain examples. Yes, certainly. Yes. Compensation, rehabilitation में rehabilitation on all the grounds. Rehabilitation with respect to livelihood, rehabilitation with respect to prosperity, education, health, and all around development of the tribals. Yes, in fact, that's see, there are more details. Like when rehabilitation is being done, rehabilitation should be done in the same tribal community as maximum as possible. Yes, ये point सही है. Yes, next is question number 11. Suppose you are officer in charge of social service to provide. Okay, this is a very straightforward question. In fact, without changing a single word, it came from the class. Okay, we have done with this case study, absolutely similar. In fact, it appeared in one of the exam also. Okay, the question was straightforward, that you are an officer, okay, and old and destitute woman has come to your office, and she is illiterate, old, etc., etc. So she has to get some certain benefits of the scheme. She has no document to show that she fulfills the eligible criteria. Now, see, on one side, she does not have the documents, but at the same time, there are compelling reasons that she is old, she is a destitute, she is illiterate. Now, in such cases, there is a dilemma in front of you that your inquiry shows that she is really destitute. मतलब और बताया गया है कि वो कहने के लिए नहीं है, she is really, that you have inquired about it, she is really destitute, living in a pitiable situation. You are in a dilemma as what to do. Put her under the scheme without necessary documents. Would clearly, in fact, यहाँ पे hint दे दी थी आंसर में. Okay, that is, in fact, what should have been done, इतना ही लिखना चाहिए था उनको. But in fact, they have incorporated the answer also. Putting her under the scheme without necessary document would clearly means the violation of rule. Okay, and denying her support would be a cruel and inhuman. Okay, so दो तो यहाँ पे ही options थे आपके extreme option. One is strictly following the rule, जो अभी Weberian model of bureaucracy हम discuss कर रहे थे. If you are strictly following the rules, then you lack empathy and compassion. You are cruel and inhuman. Okay, and in fact, the objective of governance is happiness of people. Rules are the means, and the happiness of the people is an end. So, if the rules becomes end in itself, then there is a problem with respect to the governance, because rules becomes end here. So, therefore, ignoring her situation is not correct. Now, if you bring this argument and say that, okay, she is now a destitute and this thing, therefore, exception can be made so that she can be granted the house. If this is the answer, what's the problem with this answer? Exception can be made, and violation of rules. Okay, what else?
She will get the house this time, but what about the other social
Things. Okay.
in future?
Okay, fine. Okay, that is one another criteria. See, the thing is, this will give a signal to the society that even if the rules and regulations are not there, you just have to come and walk down. Okay, obviously, I'm not undermining her situation, but the thing is, the rules are not so important, and the government has a very casual approach in dealing with it. So that's also, in fact, that's create a scope. This is like a slippery slope argument. Slippery slope समझ में आता है? Slippery slope मतलब आज आपने justify किया कि rules are not important, we can make flexibility. Then it create a scope for more and more discretionary use of power, and ultimately this becomes a scope for misuse of power also in the long run. So the rules are also important. Huh? Yes, please. What do you want to say?
In legal sense, there is a way of attestation or affidavit that people can vouch for us. We can add
In fact, that is the answer. That is what we are going to come. See, the rules are important, but ignore completely rigidity with the rules is not the issue. Second is, if you are getting driven by the empathy and compassion, it will again give a signal. In fact, your objectivity and impartiality in the long run may get hampered if you are not following the rules and regulations. So the simple way is, why not to help her in getting the documents? Okay. In fact, apathy is not about following the rules and regulation. Apathy is about considering rules as a rigid and then not taking in proactive measures in order to make those rules being accessible by the public. Are you understanding? So you have to write these arguments clearly, that can you think of rational way to resolve the dilemma? Yes, there is a rational way. You can say that both rules also followed and empathy and compassion also can be shown in a way that I will go an extra mile in arranging all the accessibility of the documents. I will help her in getting her documents so that rule also can be followed. At the same time, she can also get the benefits of the service. So here, in conclusion, you can write the rules as well as empathy and compassion should go hand in hand. And as a bureaucrat, it is important that rule cannot be easily flouted. Otherwise it will give a lot of scope, and in the long run and more subjectivity will come, and more subjectivity will create a scope for misuse of power. Therefore rules are important. So have you understood this point? Okay, now give the reasons for it. यही reasons है कि अगर आप empathy compassion दिखाओगे, rule नहीं दिखाओगे तो क्या हो जाएगा, और rule अगर follow करोगे तो how it will become considered as a rigid administration without having a public service oriented attitude. Okay, that's how you have to write. Now, yes, in the happiness of subject lies the happiness of the king. So obviously, if you are not, say, what is the use of that means which does not make the people happy, if the end is not achieved? And if you are achieving the end, in fact, it is being said that there is no wrong method of doing the right thing. Okay, means and ends wala Gandhi ne. You cannot, end justifies means ऐसे नहीं हो सकता. Okay, means should be equally good as that of the ends. So you have to follow the principal continuity between the means as well as the ends. In fact, this point you could have written in introduction. Okay, introduction में लिख सकते हो कि end is welfare of this destitute, but the means is following the procedure. So there is a dichotomy or the dilemma in between whether the means should be given preference or the end should be given preference, or whether the rule should be given preference or the people's welfare should be given preference, and both should be given preference. Therefore, we have to find out the third way here. So that's the point here. Okay, let's come to the next one. This is with regard to the young aspiring officers in such employments. Okay, that's a case interesting one. Again, something like you have joined, say for example, any organization. I will very, very briefly summarize what is the question here. You have joined one organization. Your boss is very kind to you. He is a very good person, human being, gentleman, etc., etc. All good attributes you can attach to this fellow. Okay, it's that. On one day you visit his house for some work, and you hear some shouting. Okay, shouting noises are being heard in the background. After entering, the boss but you were constantly disturbed by the crying of women. Okay, that's voices of a crying of a woman. At last you inquired with the boss, and his answer did not satisfy you. So obviously he has dodged the question, patriarchal attitude. Okay. Next day you were compelled to inquire further in the office and found that his behavior is very bad at his home with his wife. Okay, so that's clearly stated. It's not about like assumption. Once it is written that inquiry has been made and you have found that her attitude is not very good with respect to his wife. He also beats bit of his wife. His wife is not well educated. She is a simple woman in comparison to her husband. You see that through your boss though your boss is a nice person in the office, he is engaged in the domestic violence at home. So it's a clear-cut case of domestic violence. There is no confusion that whether it is an allegation or suspicion or this thing. In such a situation, you are left with the following option. In fact, the question is, they have made a little bit more easy. Analyze each option and its consequence, that merit and demerit. Just ignore the things because it is your personal matter. It is their personal matter. What are the merits and demerits of this? Demerit is a personal dilemma. No, demerit is you are continuing, you are not raising the voice against the domestic violence. Okay? Yes, that is the most important one. That is a demerit. Merit, is there any merit? Is there any merit of this option? Yes, narrow personal interest, because you want to remain in good terms with your boss. Okay, you do not want to make a fuss. So personal interest, there is a one issue which is a social evil, and another thing which is a personal interest. So larger public issue is not your concerns, but your concern is more of a personal motive. In fact, there is a value called selflessness. So यहाँ पे selflessness नहीं आया है. यहाँ पे your personal interest has become more important. So advantage may be your personal interest, but demerit is that you remain silent about the domestic violence and you do not raise voice against it. Okay, much things can be other things can be written. Report the case to the appropriate authority. Yes, analyze this option and its consequence. Report the case with the appropriate authority. Demerit, okay. See, the thing is, remember one thing, in merit and demerit while writing, do not write equally. If you are going to reject that option, so demerit should be written more if you are going to reject. क्या हो जाता है आंसर्स पेपर्स में देखा गया कि 2 पॉइंट इसके तो 2 पॉइंट इसके खींच खींच के लिखते हो, या फिर कभी कभी डीमेरिट ऑप्शन यू आर गोइंग टू रिजेक्ट बट यू आर राइटिंग टू मेनी मेरिट्स, तो ऐसे सिग्नल चला जाता है एग्जामिनर को कि ही इज गोइंग टू लाइक हिज हार्ट एंड माइंड इज विद दिस, अल्टीमेटली ही इज रिजेक्टिंग. सो इफ यू आर रिजेक्टिंग इट, डू नॉट राइट टू मेनी मेरिट्स. मेरा इंक्रीमेंट हो जाएगा, मेरा प्रमोशन हो जाएगा, आई विल बी इन ए गुड, माई प्रोडक्टिविटी विल इंक्रीज. सो इट्स टू मेनी थिंग्स. और डीमेरिट में लिखा हुआ है डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस विल बी रिजॉल्व्ड. तो इससे क्या मैसेज जाता है कि डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस इज नॉट इन योर हार्ट, ओके, बट द प्रमोशन इज इन योर हार्ट. सो राइट, प्रमोशन इज देयर बट द थिंग और बीइंग इन गुड टर्म्स, बट इन डीमेरिट देन यू राइट इवन व्हेन my promotion and internal security, but still there is a larger issue of domestic violence, women rights, she's also illiterate, she cannot go herself, etc., etc., those points. Appropriate authority. Your own innovative approach towards the situation. Yes, in fact this question sometimes UPSC also frame very in a crooked way. ऊपर लिखा हुआ है analyze each option with its consequences. अब C में तो options बनाना है आपको, ठीक है, there is no option है basically. ऊपर लिखा हुआ है कि एनालाइज ईच ऑप्शन एंड इट्स कॉन्सिक्वेंस। अब तीसरा ऑप्शन क्या है? योर इनोवेटिव अप्रोच टुवर्ड्स द सिचुएशन। पहले लिखो फिर उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस। यस, व्हाट आर द इनोवेटिव अप्रोच? Yes, this is going to be an important question because, yes, innovative approach. हाँ, yes, क्या? Report to an woman NGO. Okay, ठीक है, direct. एक, one by one, yes. Reform how? Okay. See, the thing is, in such cases, you please identify different stakeholders, तो आपका आंसर आ जाएगा। एक लेते हैं, वो बॉस है। Okay. So, have a counseling with the boss. Okay, counseling with the boss, make him understand. Okay, that is through the method of persuasion that women rights are important. Okay, and she also like this is a reflection of patriarchy. You should gender equality, etc., etc. And to this end, you should mend your behavior. Okay, you should mend your behavior, and you should uphold the values of gender equality. You should stop the violence, etc. This is a method of persuasion. But method of persuasion, boss को ही लिखना है. If he will not mend his behavior, I will also threaten him. Okay, that is, I will file the case against you if you are not mending your behavior. So persuasion as well as a sort of a deterrence or threatening that if you do not mend your behavior easily, then you have to face dire consequences because you will be left with no options but to file the case. Okay, that is with respect to the boss. You can do it. Then come to this wife. Wife, obviously wife of boss. So यहाँ पे क्या क्या कर सकते हैं कि first of all educate her that she has a legal and constitutional rights. Okay, educate her that she has rights and she should not fear that she is under this domestic violence act hai. So educate her with respect to domestic violence act, etc., etc., and show a solidarity. See, here there is a component of when you are writing the ethical question, you should visualize her, yourself, that put into the shoes of others and etc. So first of all, there is a fear, insecurity, etc. These components are there. So you should also write that, showing a solidarity with her, telling her that he will support in particularly getting the justice with regard to it, make him understand her rights, Domestic Violence Act, and in any situation, if she requires any kind of a support to take the resolution of problems, or for that matter, taking the issue to the logical conclusion, so she can like expect the support from this fellow. So that's about, or maybe helping her in the situation, helping her to file the case, etc., etc. So that is with respect to the wife. The third option can be like bringing the both of these two people in the negotiating table together. Okay, like say for example, putting them together and conflict management. What are the issues with respect to you, and why such things are happening? Mediation. Okay, mediation. You yourself can be a mediator first. Okay, mediation. Because see, the thing is, in such cases, it's also important that secrecy and issues within the four walls are important. So, like mediation, acting as a mediator between the husband and wife to resolve the issue amicably with a mutual involvement. So that's the thing. Next is, yes, you can go to the women NGO and ask for it, and then finally the police authority and complaining to it. Okay, so these are the different sort of responses that you can. Yes, you please. You were suggesting something? You? It can encourage tolerance, or it should. Here there is. Yes, certainly. That, yes, inculcating some sense of courage, or if it is not there, then you should also go 1 mile and step. E-governance, इसमें क्या है e-governance? Filing of the case. मतलब रात में पढ़ा था e-governance, इसलिए filing of the cases should be, e-governance should be introduced, policing, e-policing वगैरह नहीं है. See, the point is now. ये कहाँ लिखा हुआ है? No, come on. When there is a victim, you can talk to any bare victim. What is this? Come on, मतलब Are you really serious about what you are saying? No, come on. If there is a victim, domestic violence is happening, you cannot, is there any rule book that you cannot talk to the victim? Now the wife of, do not take that way. आपने क्या बोला है कि he cannot talk to the wife of. आपने मतलब पूरा spirit बिगाड़ दिया है. This is not a case of adultery, extramarital affairs is going on. He cannot talk to the. She is a victim. She is a victim of a domestic violence. Okay. In fact, there are feminist scholars. Personal is political करके एक statement है. Personal is political, that the power equation does not stop at the corridor of family. They entered. There is a power equation within the family. That is a ये radical feminism के arguments है. ठीक है? No, victim if anywhere आप अगर child violation हो रहा है, say for example domestic violation की जगह child abuse हो रहा है, child violation हो रहा है, child pornography, child से related है, आप बोलोगे कि you are not a father, you will not talk to the son? Is this the argument? No. You will say that if the violence is happening, obviously you have to take it into account. यहाँ पे innovation. See, the thing is, although the question is not have asked about what step you actually gonna choose, okay, the one step which you gonna choose, ये नहीं पूछा है, so do not enter into the domain, or if you can choose, you can also write which is an appropriate step. If at all one step has to be taken into account, which is an appropriate step? In fact, you have to also, okay, yes, mediation के लिए आप बोल सकते हो, लेकिन the very point is, first, the issue is within the family. It is not an official issue. If this would have been the official issue, you could have gone that way. यहाँ पे expertise skill required ही नहीं है ना. You are also an expert. Any Tom, Dick, Harry, class 4 कर्मचारी is also in sort of shown empathy. आप सीनियर को इसलिए बोलते हो ताकि जो फंक्शनिंग का जॉब है वो एक्सपर्टी रिक्वायर्ड है, इसलिए व्हेन योर सीनियर इज नॉट लिसनिंग यू गो टू द हायर ऑफिशियल्स इन ऑर्डर टू गिव द डायरेक्शन. यहां पे देयर इज नो रोल ऑफ हायरार्की, दिस इज अ सोशल इशू. इवन यू आर अ स्वीपर, यू शुड टेक एन एक्शन अगेंस्ट द सीईओ इफ इट इज अ डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस केस, because upholding the value, there is a like Immanuel Kant used the word categorical imperative. That is, there are certain non-negotiable, absolutely important principles that cannot be negotiated with anything. That is respect for women rights, untouchability, caste discrimination. These are something which are very, very obvious cases of violation of basic rights. Okay? Yes. Yes. नहीं, आपको तो तीनों लिखने ही लिखने हैं, मेरिट डिमेरिट मेरिट डिमेरिट मेरिट डिमेरिट. व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज, if this question would have emphasized which option you should follow, what you would have gone for? See, mutual reconciliation, yes. Why? And if any other answer, then why? Why mutual reconciliation? Amicably, okay, fine. Okay. Okay, so that is not a big concern. Do not write this image of boss, but this, yes, it can be amicably solved. Yes, what else? Is any other answer? हाँ, harmony, वही है, amicably solve, harmony, peace, equilibrium. Yes. Yes, it's better to write this way, but since I have emphasized on one, it is mutual reconciliation. See, the thing is, you may go for reporting the authority also. You will not be horribly wrong, because the question has already stated that domestic violence has already happened. See, the reconciliation and this thing also comes into picture when there is a issue of mending the behavior and still the conflict is happening and etc. Sometimes it's also important when the cases of domestic violence, rape, horrendous crime, there has to be accountability for the wrong that has already been committed. It's not that somebody is promising, okay, in future I will not do so. There will not accountability on something which is horribly gone wrong. Are you understanding? Male educated, so so he is not following. Yes, so that is what I'm saying. You can go for the mutual conciliation, or you can go for the, see, mutual conciliation इसमें थोड़ा still valid है, क्योंकि family के जो equations रहते हैं, it is more where you give preference to the म्यूचुअल रिकंसिलिएशन. ओके, इनफैक्ट द डाइवोर्स का पीरियड भी इतना 6 मंथ्स का, 1 साल का रखा जाता है ताकि अ सिचुएशन मे अराइज वेयर दे थिंक ऑफ joining hands together once again. But if it is not, then legal consequences are there. But if it would not have been the case of domestic violence, and if it would have been a case of sexual harassment at workplace, same situation, that lady is not a wife and sexual harassment at workplace has happened. So there is there has to be an accountability, legal accountability. Are you understanding? If there is a case of sexual harassment at workplace, he cannot simply say that, no, I feel sorry for the past and here onwards I will not do. So that's not a consideration, because their family ethos and legality are different from the public ethos and legality. So in case of public sphere, he has to bear the consequences, legal consequences immediately. In fact, Domestic Violence Act say that he has to bear the consequences directly. If there are objective evidences, you can follow. Okay? So that's how you have to go ahead. I think last question, or there is second last. Yes. Yes, what are the consequences? Authority will take a legitimate action. Domestic Violence Act will be applied. In fact, you can see that all legitimate and legal action with respect to violation of rights of women, okay, he will be held accountable. You can say that. Yes, there will be appropriate justice will be given to the women. ठीक है, but demerit में ये लिख सकते हो कि there may be a strain in your relationship with your boss, but that is inconsequential, because more important is the merit part. Yes, the 13th question, ABC is a transnational company. Okay, this question is about one of the company. Okay, again a capitalist company is going for the development of, there is a one village called as Vikaspuri village. Okay, but Vikaspuri, as there is a paradox, Vikaspuri is not full of Vikas. So, matlab, it's a backward region, underdeveloped region. And therefore the company is trying to invest in Vikaspuri region in order to develop the Vikaspuri region. Okay, so the company, now the sense of the question is that company is having a genuine interest in development, but company sensing the possible, but there are problems. The new plant may result in increasing cost of living, aliens migrating to the region because migration will be there, and disturbing the socio-economic order. The company, sensing the possible protest, tried to educate the people of Vikaspuri region and public in general how the CSR policy would help to overcome likely difficulties of the residents in the Vikaspuri region. In spite of the protest, in spite of this explanation, the protest began and some of the residents decided to approach the judiciary, as their plea before the government did not yield any result. Now, on one hand, company is trying their level best in order to let the people of the Vikaspuri region know that this development is the interest of Vikaspuri region and there are CSR policies which will benefit them. But they are not convinced with this fact and they continue to protest. They also have filed up the case in the judiciary, or decided to approach, in the judiciary. Now, identify the ethical issues involved in the case and what can be suggested to satisfy the company's goal and to address the residents' concern. Now, what are the ethical issues? Ethical issues is again the developmental issues versus the issues with respect to the social. And यहाँ पे already stated issue related with migration and their consequences, issue related with disruption of socio-economic order and involvement of local public in a particular region, issue of consent. Okay, that's also an important issue. Issue of consent and issue with regard to corporate social responsibility. Sustainable development, inclusive growth, ये सब issues है. Sustainable development because environment वाला, inclusive growth, people should be taken into account. A good corporate governance, because good corporate ethical practice is one which takes into account all the people in a society into consideration. So write both the sides, and then development versus social justice debate. There is a larger, if you want to write a headline bigger, that is it is a development versus social justice. So within the development you can write development of the Vikaspuri region and the development of organization. Okay, how organization is going to get benefit and the region, and then social justice issues are this. Now, having written these issues, now the question is that how you are going to go ahead to satisfy the company's goal and to address the residents' concern. Is now what you are going to do, because you already, what is the gist of this question? Like where to start from now when the company has tried to tried to educate them, but they haven't, they were unrelenting in a sense that they continued protest. Hmm? Yes.
You can have a model like how Tata, wherever they go, they develop the
Hmm.
region, they develop the people over there, ensure that they
Yes, in fact, that is a bigger model, inclusive growth model, or what we have discussed just now, compensation plus rehabilitation policy, etc. But the point is, this question is assuming somewhere the spirit is company wants to do all-round development, but the people are not coming forward or getting convinced. So the point is more than that. Point is not about here the intention of corporate is like earning the money, that is profit or profiteering, but also it's very clear cut that they are quite social. So the point is when you want to do something good but the people do not listen, then what is the way out? It's a persuasion ka jo theory hai, okay, because there is a gap in between what is being conceived by the public and what is being, there is a trust deficit. Are you understanding? There is a trust deficit. There is a lack of the message that the company that carries. Now it happens when, जैसे persuasion में तीन part है, source, message and the target. If there is a already conflict in between the target and the source, the target never get persuaded. Are you understanding? Because target will always have this thing in mind that source has certain malified intention. So when there is a contradiction between the two, the target continues to believe that this is not in the interest of the audience. So in such situation, persuasion theory में source में कुछ एक components लिखे हुए रहते हैं. Source में कौन कौन से चीजें matter करती है? Authority, credibility and liking component. Okay, the source समझ में आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा है? What I am saying? Okay. We will discuss one by one. Okay. See, the thing is, there are three things in persuasion. Source, the message that you are going to carry and how you are going to carry, that is content of message and how you are going to deliver. And then there is a target or the audience. Now what I am essentially saying, if there is a conflict, ideological conflict or any kind of conflict between the two, even if you have something good, you will never able to persuade the target. In fact, there are certain characters or features on which the persuasion depends. One is the credibility. Second is authority. And third is liking component. This is from point of view of target. If target considered that source is credible enough that we should believe in them, we should have, there is, credibility is trustworthiness. Should we trust the source? Authority, by what authority they are going to tell them. So that's also important in getting persuasion. And liking component, if there is a, in fact, think of, there is a hostility to start with, they will never get persuaded because they have already taken their position that this is a hostile and we should not listen to them. So in, now the question is already stated that we want to do something good, but it is not happening. So it means that you have to bring something where you can able to persuade, okay, effectively. समझ में आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है यहाँ पे? Okay, so credible source and authority and liking. So it means that in that particular area, is there any person or is there any organization which is revered by the public in that area? Okay, any local figure, any social activist, any NGO, or for that matter, particularly you can call upon some sarpanch and etc. of that particular thing and make him understand. And if he becomes a source, then there will be a more credibility. Because here it is written that company is trying to educate them. Company is trying to educate them, but they were unrelenting. Now who is important? Somebody from their own area, somebody from their own group, if try to make them understand that no, look, this is not with a malified intention, this is with a good consequence. So यहाँ पे जो है authority जो है, that is maybe in the Gram Sabha and the Sarpanch you can bring and call upon him. Any NGO which is working in that area, any person who enjoys a reverence and respect in that particular area, such people can be identified and they can be act as a mediator which can pass on this message in a more credible manner. So there will be a more you can say that authenticity, there will be more credibility, there will be more trustworthiness. This is one way, that is through the method of persuasion. Second is through the demonstrable effect. Demonstrable effect means that making them with the clear the facts and figures that this company is known for the good reason. You can bring them. We have already developed in a particular XYZ region, and this is how it has been benefited. So something demonstrable effect, समझ में आ रहा है? Something that you have done in the past and you are trying to demonstrate that this is just not what they preach, but they practice also. Third is you can involve the authority also, because here the question is written that you have already cleared the legal and administrative rules, regulation, etc. So you can bring in the authority में यहाँ पे आ जाएगा, not only Gram Sabha, but say for example the government authority, there will be more legitimacy. Fourth thing can be a stakeholder approach, that in each and everything you can bring on the more participatory thing in order to make them understand. And then apart from that, you have to also talk about that is how you are going to address the concern. So write something like compensation will be given, rehabilitation will be given. So this is a one part of the answer. Second is how to break the ice, how to break the log jam. Okay, even if you have a good things with you, they are not getting persuaded. So there are two parts of answer, that changing and making them contact and engaging them, and second is what you are going to do, making them understand. Have you understood this? Okay, so that's, yes, please. Yes. Yes, तो आपको ये बताना है कि जो corporate social responsibility में you are going to take care of all these things. Like socio-economic order है तो you will be provided with livelihood, security, education, employment. You will be absorbed into business. You will be reduced into the minority. ऐसे नहीं है. We will not be an authority. There will be a more participatory approach. So elevating the concerns that they are having if the new people will come. So you have to say that you are not going to displace them, you are going to engage them in a more positive way, so that it will be a win-win situation that we are also going to develop, but not at the cost of exploitation of your resources. You will be also a part of it. Yes, see, disturbing socio-economic order is, what does it mean? That your resources are being used by the others, which creates a sort of social, what you can say, social tension. Yes, undermined. तो आपको ये बताना है कि CSR के पॉलिसी के थ्रू आप ऐसी कोई चीज नहीं होने देंगे which will create a disturbance into the socio-economic order. In? Yes, we have already talked like developmental issues versus social justice issue. Developmental issue में development of विकास पूरी, जो विकास नहीं हुआ है वहाँ पे, okay? तो consequential ethics. सोशल जस्टिस में लिखना पड़ेगा ना आपको पॉइंट. सोशल जस्टिस में क्या क्या है? सोशल जस्टिस में देयर लैंड एंड रिसोर्सेज विल बी टेकन अवे, सो वेदर दे विल बी देयर विल बी अ बेनिफिट्स टू देम और नॉट. सो दैट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस. सोशल जस्टिस में पूरा आ जाएगा, ऑल सॉर्ट ऑफ कॉम्पेंसेशन, रिहेबिलिटेशन एक्सेट्रा, एनी काइंड ऑफ डिसएडवांटेज दैट इज गोइंग टू. ठीक है. यस, नाउ लास्ट क्वेश्चन, that is with regard to the Saraswati, was an IT professional in US. Okay, Saraswati was IT professional in US. Okay, moved by the patriotic sense of doing something for the country, she returned to the India. So there is a positive sense of patriotism. Together with some other like-minded friends, she formed an NGO to build the schools for the poor rural community. The objective of the school was to provide the best quality modern education at the nominal cost. She soon discovered that she has to seek the permission from number of government agencies. The rules and the procedures were quite confusing and cumbersome. What frustrated her most was the delay, callous attitude of the officials and the constant demand for the bribe. Okay, delays, callous attitude, constant demand for the bribe, and complexity in functioning. Her experience and experience of many others like her has deterred people from taking up the social service project, because they think that there is a bribe involved, there is a callous responsibility, there are delays, there are complexities. So this has deterred them in taking the social projects, social service projects. A measure of government control, voluntary social work is necessary, but it should not be exercised in a coercive and a corrupt manner. What are the measures can you suggest to ensure that due control is exercised but well-meaning and the honest NGO's effort should not be thwarted. It means that you can use the regulatory, there is a necessity of the regulation, but regulation should not be used as a tool in order to discourage the NGOs. Okay, so that's the whole idea of the gist of case study. So here you need to go through the very balanced, nuanced approach. Okay, balanced in a sense that you cannot just talk about NGO without being regulation. Okay, that will again have its own negative consequences, so some sort of regulation is required. But again, regulation should not be over-controlling the NGO body in order to discourage them. So how will you write the answers? How will you go ahead with the question? Because I have already given the hints. What should be this? Okay, first of all, see, there are two things. One broader point, you take a debate on this regulation versus like minimum regulation versus freedom for the NGOs. And second is talk about this delay, callous attitude, demand for bribes. That point should not be also overlooked. Okay, regulation does not mean that you make them do some illegitimate things and then only you will grant the permission. So that sort of a regulation is in fact unethical and inappropriate, illegal, unconstitutional, etc. So first introduce by saying importance of NGO for the social justice and overall thing. Okay, NGO has a larger role to play, particularly when welfare state is taking away its responsibilities from the social sphere, and there is a ever increasing in the demand, social inequalities, problems of the society. In this case, NGO will act as a complementary to the efforts of the state. So NGO are complementary to the state for the larger welfare of the people. Because state, जैसे होता है nanny state पता है? Fatherly state, nanny state. Okay, so that has become a philosophy of welfare state in the past. But welfare state is unsustainable state. Unsustainable मतलब क्या है? कि government really don't have that much of resources to take care of each and everything of the society and the people. जैसे बोलते थे ना cradle to grave. Okay, from cradle to grave, if the state started taking the responsibility of people, then in fact this is unviable. This is a utopia to think, because everything cannot be done by the state. So in this context, particularly after LPG model, when the state has withdrawn itself out of the responsibility or state control, it becomes all the more important that NGO has come as a complementary role in order to take care of the issues of social justice. Again, you can say that with the LPG, etc., inequalities, glaring inequalities are increasing between rich and poor, between urban and rural, between many other things. So NGO has a role to play for the social justice. So in this context, NGOs are important and they have a larger social role to play, and therefore they should not be discouraged. Now, having said this point, then you come to the regulation, and then you can say that yes, so in this context one can say that regulations are important, but regulation should not be an over control. Okay, regulation should not discourage them. So what are the regulations that you can sing? You have to write certain regulations. You can say that transparency of funding. Okay, that is a certain minimum thing. Then international standard practices for regulation of NGO should be followed, so that there will be a more acceptance. If you are following something which is not in international standards and too much of you are poking a nose into the NGO's functioning, then obviously it will be a sort of discouragement. So what is the international standards for the regulations that you can follow? You can in fact take the steps in order to reduce the trust deficit between the NGOs and the government, because there is a lot of trust deficit. Any kind of regulation, NGOs are feeling that this is against us. So they also should be taken into confidence that a sort of international practices and minimum regulation is important in order to maintain the transparency and accountability, so that the NGOs should work in the larger welfare of the people. In fact, you could also write this is important in the context of in India, where there is a leak of IB report which states that some of the NGOs are working with the malified intention. So in this context, the transparency will bring that those NGOs, we need to differentiate good NGOs from the unscrupulous NGOs or NGOs working with the malified intention. But at the same time, you also immediately say that just because some NGOs are like tainted, you cannot have a blanket approach. Blanket approach that you go for an extra regulation and over regulation in order to stop them. So there has to be a balance in between regulation on one hand and the autonomy in functioning of the governance of NGO. Okay, one NGO should not be targeted. So have a balanced approach, and then also talk about regulation is fine, but any kind of delay, callous attitude and constant demand for the bribe is absolutely unjustifiable. If this bribe and callous attitude and delay are in a way, then absolutely this has to be discouraged. People who are asking for the bribe should be held accountable and answerable. The callous attitude, that there is a need of inculcation of more democratic or you can say public service oriented attitude into the official, that official should make understand that NGO has a larger good role to play for the society. The complex procedures, single window clearance facility and so on and so things like e-governance here you can bring in maybe. Okay, e-governance, good governance, transparency, this can be bring in so that the process will be smooth. So at least delay, callous attitude and bribes should not be the point of discouragement for the NGO, and regulation should not also be in point, and they should understand that minimum regulation is necessary and inevitable. Okay, so this is how you can say, drop some line with respect to FCRA Act if you can drop. Like this is a very controversial again, but then if you can balance that, because FCRA Act में क्या हो जाता है, एक बोलते हैं over regulation, okay, depending upon right and left where you belong to. Okay, some people will say that FCRA is a monster, or somebody will say that FCRA is a god. Okay, so depending upon that you can write, and if you cannot balance, avoid writing that. Okay, so that's as simple as that. So that is what the conclusion of the paper. And if you have any other issue, you can separately meet me also. But remember that the overall, the message that you have to take back home is the paper is very simple if you categorically read the syllabus points properly. And you just have a simple, very basic conceptual understanding of all the topics in the syllabus. That's the first thing. You need not require to dig into the different scholars and thinkers too much. Even the Rawls was a starting point of social justice. People, those who are not read, will not understand this, but Rawls was not a very, very technical thinker. He's an obvious thinker for the social justice. Second thing is, you should go through the, now this is a fourth paper. In fact, because of lack of time, I could not able to relate to each and every paper, but believe me, most of the things have been some or the other way repeated in the last 3 years. Most of the things. Social justice, patriarchy, whistleblowing, personal conflict, public conflict, bureaucratic attitude, democratic, these are the only themes in ethics. Okay. So once you have understood the themes, you will see that last 4 years question paper, if you do it diligently, I don't think so you will face any kind of a problem. And those people who have done it, in fact, again, I'm not, it's not a marketing, but the thing is, we had a crash course for 20 hours, and those who have attended, they have, in fact, all 100% of the questions we have discussed in the class, including the technical ones, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Kautilya, this Rawls theory of justice, and 7 sins of Gandhi. So-called technical, all 4 things we have done in the class. It's not that we have just predicted and it has happened. It may not happen in the next, but these were the some of the mere minimum things that are required to be understood. So what we have done is minimum. So in that context, you should know that what is the track. You should not miss the track. That's the point. And I hope you all the best. Okay, that is from, we have already extended. Yes, any question, if you have any doubt, please ask. Standard books, lexicon you can follow. Apart from that, AR's recommendations. Okay. Axis. Which book? Chronicle. No, Chronicle is Chronicle publication. Axis है क्या? Okay, okay, ठीक है.